All right, we are live. We have Campbell and we have the Dutch Sense. Mike, you are muted at the moment, though. Good day, Campbell. And
Hello,
hello, Dutch.
all.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. I feel very honored.
Very good to see you guys. And I'm recording at my end so I can play it back on my YouTube channel in a premiere. And you guys can come over to the chat room over on my YouTube channel and we'll watch it back with thousands of more people and get it out on my main YouTube channel when it's all done here. So that'll be cool. That'll be great.
That'll be great.
Absolutely,
yes.
brother. And we'll help bring in a little bit more understanding of such things as these StarForts, the mega terraforming, and such things that's like the Grand Canyon even potentially could be lost, destroyed civilization, and that you've actually found that it seems a lot of the continents even are from a mega size to down, and that there's been many huge catastrophes in the past, and that's what you track, and have also deciphered the cycle of the energy patterns of the realm that we live in.
You're very kind in your assessment of what I have found. For those of you who've never seen me, I don't normally show myself on camera. Okay, I'm on here with these two guys, and they look way better than I do. Just so you know, man. Oh no, it's really good to be on here, and we're going to talk about a few of the things that I found. I'll do a screen capture, and we'll show the indisputable evidence of giant structures that I found while searching earthquakes. The way it all started, and I will explain as we go along how I found it, how I found you guys, how I found mud flood and Tartaria and all that, because starting about 3 years ago, I was clueless on all these topics, and I actually came across a music video of a guy playing drums, recent Tartarians, and I came across that by searching. I was searching for the ancient history of Greece. I was searching up these. Somebody had told me a legend of Zeus and Kronos and the gods of ancient Greece and tossing mountains. And they had these 100-handed creatures that were the size of mountains that could toss mountains. And those creatures fought with the Titans against Zeus and the gods. And they got tossed down to a place called Tartarus. And I was searching Tartarus, and up comes recent Tartarians drum guy, which then led me to Zertus and a bunch of videos by him who I'm like, what's this guy talking about? And that then led me to go look at things in a little bit different way on the shapes of things. And next thing you know, within a few months, I'm noticing earthquakes striking. And the earthquakes, as I zoomed in on them, I noticed were part of these. Well, I'm not doing the Illuminati sign, just so everybody knows. I'm doing a diamond shape. The StarForts shape.
Illuminati confirmed.
Okay, it's this shape like that. Okay, it's a diamond shape, not the Jay-Z whatever. But I'm just doing that shape with my hand so you can see it. I'm not making any hand signals, guys, just so everybody knows. And the owl on my head is from Night Owl Seeds. Long story on that. Okay, I'm just getting that out of the way right now. But I will, if you don't mind, I'll turn on a display capture, and that will show you my whole screen here. This is going to show you everything, including the back end, whatever, but I don't care if anybody sees it, because we're going to jump right over to Google Earth, and I'll show you starting.
And sorry, shout out to Andreas Zertis, who we're actually live on the Zertis channel right now, and I sent Zertis a link, so he might join us if he wakes up, but probably won't in time, as we had a late one earlier before this. But yeah, it's funny how the world works, and that it was the topic of Titans, you said, and Tartarus, and then your first stream here, you met Mike and talked to Mike and all of his research on Titans, and it's just it brings back the actual real possibility that what we've been taught to believe as fictional legends of our histories were in fact the actual realities, and real histories are a lot closer to them, and that the Hopi legend, I like the 5 realms where they go of the sun and of humanity, where one gets destroyed or goes underground, comes back up and stuff, but that it was like it went from the Titans or the turtles back to the Titans to the giants or the gods, the Titans, giants, and then us, and then potentially even going into a new fifth age of the sun too, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole or portal or black hole, white hole, Dutch, that I want to go down with you too. Of is the sun white now, or is it now a white pulsar? Do you know anything of that, of the sun cycles and the changing of it? Have you heard of
It's very interesting you mentioned that on the sun cycles and the white light and the sun, the light that the sun used to emit and that will apparently supposedly emit in the future. You know, when you were talking about the cymatics and the church stained glass and the leaded glass, the red glass, the blue glass, the different colors, that the sunlight is already known to have this effect. We already know vitamin D, and we already know vitamins, quote unquote, are contained in the sunlight itself, but it's just the inducing of that out of your body with the light, with the photons hitting your skin. All right, it brings up, but vitamin D goes into your body that's produced on the surface of your skin from the reflecting of the photons. That's just with the light. Now, do I know if it's white or not? I can tell you that I've seen some videos on YouTube over the past few years showing the difference between what our sunlight used to look like, let's just say 20 years ago, and what our sunlight looks like now, and that it does appear to be whiter. And I saw some articles on that too in the mainstream media, but mainstream media.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point with stained glass, isn't it? You know, was that developed to change the color of the sun when it goes white? I don't know. Random thought, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of talk about that, actually, about the white light with the church in particular, churches and
cathedrals and the holy, or just the sacred temples and energy points and palaces everywhere, and pyramids too.
What I've got on the screen here is, in case you guys, can you guys see it? Can you see the globe here on the screen? Okay. This is Antarctica. Okay. So, for instance, here's Australia, here's Africa, here's South America. Now, I noticed that a series of earthquakes are striking up here, right next to our letter X, right up here. Now, when you look at the whole South Pole, or whatever you want to call this, look at it. I want you to see, well, I'm not going to tell you what to see, but I'm going to tell you the shape that is here. And I'm not doing pareidolia. This is physically in the plates. First of all, we have a spade shape. Now, it's not completed all the way. It's a spade shape, though. Okay, at the center, it looks like a spade symbol.
I see what you're saying there.
Okay, now, around the outside edges are the actual fractures of the plate boundary. And let me back it out just ever so slightly. Starting back here, okay, we have the classic StarFort pentagonal shape around the outside edge of all of the entire South Pole, going out to Australia over to the east, going out to Africa over to the west, and going up to the middle of the Indian Ocean, where it shoots out like a lightning bolt, out and going up to the north. Now, I'm going to explain this all to you, what I found. I measured this. I measured this from the far back south, and I'll show you it on Google Earth, so you know I'm not tripping just on my copy of Earthquake 3D, that it's all about orientation on how you view the Earth. You guys already know this, looking at the geoglyphs around the planet and all the different things that you're finding. But when I look at it this way, now you can really see it on the plate. Do you see, first of all, I should ask, do you see it? Do you see
100%? And yeah, it's like those same angled bastion shapes of the StarFort shapes and trigonometry, and that it's the exact same ones that you also have shown and demonstrated and measured throughout North America, and the massive StarFort geometry there. And
here it is on the screen. Okay, I mean, you can see 1,000 different examples of it. Here's one, the famous one in Holland, but this is the shape we're talking about. Okay, so this shape right here on screen on the sides of the StarFort is this shape around Antarctica itself with a spade symbol. Okay, now, you might think that I'm just seeing things or whatever, but now I'm going to take you over to Google Earth, and I know we're using the round Earth, whatever, but it doesn't matter because we're going to zoom into where it's flat. We're going to zoom into a view flat onto the Earth, so to speak. And now we're looking at California. In case you don't know, this is California. Bring this back due north. And this is the way people normally look at California. All right. Now, I'm going to turn it sideways to see what we're talking about here. You don't really have to look too hard to see it, to see the same shape. And I will trace it out for you with my ruler.
Right?
It is the exact same shape as a StarFort. It starts back here, goes up to here. It's about 125 miles exactly, almost 25. And then up to here. This points up to the San Andreas. It's 300 miles long total, and it's in the topography of the mountains itself. These are mountains. These are not rivers. There are rivers that flow along them, but these are actual thousands of foot high mountains. I can move my mouse over. It goes up 1,500, 2,000 feet high. It's 300 miles long. Now, get this. In the middle of each one, and there's more than one. There's 3 of them going all the way up to the Washington state. There's 3 huge ones. There's a military base in the middle of each one where we launched nuclear bombers from this one. And they built a big X marks the spot in the middle of each one, too. I will show you at least 10 more examples of this, where there's a military base or U.S. government base built right in the middle pinnacle tip of one. This is 300 miles long. Look, guys, I'm measuring just straight back to the back end. Look where it goes back to.
Is that the Grand Canyon?
That's the Grand Canyon. Yes, sir. It's blown out on the back side.
It's like literally inversed features to the extremes on each end of it. And that at the intersections and tips of each of these angles are these energy nodes that now the military or the powers that be and highest technology are using their building their sites on.
Right. And now I can prove this. This is, at first I would understand people would be skeptical, but with Edwards Air Force Base in the middle, you might say we're just tripping. On the right side over here, right on this side of the StarFort, or what I'll call a StarFort, is Area 51 and the nuclear test sites. Here's the nuke test sites. And now the nukes tie in on this. I'll explain in a minute. The nukes. But here, these are all underground craters. Here's Area 51 right next to it. So on one side of this giant StarFort, which it is, and it's symmetrical, and it's the same measurement on both sides. That's key to this, is that these are down to the mile on all sides, the same. Now on the west side, over here, is the U.S. Marines training base and bombing range called 29 Palms on this side, and where they store a bunch of nuclear material. So nuclear material, bombing range on this side, nuclear material, Area 51 and bombing range on this side. And in the middle pinnacle tip is Edwards Air Force Base. Now, over here, there's 2 more. They're harder to see, but they are there. And I have measured them in the topography, and I'll do it for you right now. Going up to the north and back down to the south, it's a giant triangular shape. It's the old ocean that used to be in here. And on the back right side of it is Salt Lake City, the Big Depression. So on the back right side of one of them, we have the Grand Canyon. On the back right side of this one, which I will measure for you and show you, it's the same distance from the back to the front. Again, we're going 350 miles. At the pinnacle tip of this is another military base. This one is where we store nukes again. This is the Sierra Army Depot in the middle pinnacle tip of the second one. Now, there's a third one. It's easy to see. It's over on the far eastern side or the northern side. This is Washington State, Bend, Oregon. Here's the Puget Sound in Seattle. And here is our giant third part of the 300-mile-long StarFort. And it has a giant crater at the backside. What's in the pinnacle tip?
And it's the same geometry as what you originally showed around the Antarctic.
I almost just sneezed in the microphone. At the pinnacle tip is not a military base, though. At the pinnacle tip of this one is the Facebook and Apple data center is at the pinnacle tip of this one. And I'll turn on my label so you can see I'm not exaggerating. This really is the Facebook data center. See, Facebook data center, and zoom in, Apple data center. They've built their data centers in the middle of the third one up on the east side. So now that's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. All 3 of them have a pinnacle tip, something in the middle, significant, and a blast outside on the back side, all three of them. Now, you'd have to say that that's coincidence with all three, with the military base in the middle of them. But there's another one, an even bigger one, and it's in the Midwest U.S. This gets into what I found, guys, and what my wife found. I'm looking at the Midwest like this. Here is St. Louis, Missouri, right here, where I live. And on this over here is the town of New Madrid, Missouri. You guys may have heard of the town of New Madrid from the Great New Madrid earthquake. Right here, town of New Madrid. So what I want to show you is the exact same shape in the actual mountains of Missouri pointing down to Oklahoma. And on the left side is New Madrid. On the right side is St. Louis. On the far right side over here, Kansas City. And on the pinnacle tip, Muskogee, Oklahoma, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. On the left-hand side is Little Rock. We're built out at like a pentagon all the way around it. And this one is 300 miles long. And I'll measure it from back to front to show it to you. It's pointing somewhere, which I'll show to you in a second, but it's almost right down to the mile of the size of the ones over in California. Now, this is significant because on the left side here is New Madrid. And on the right side here are the Cahokia Mounds, right across from St. Louis, right in here. They're directly across from downtown St. Louis. And I know I've got the map turned sideways, so I'll bring it in here and show you why the Cahokia Mounds matter. Here, let me get the Cahokia Mounds on here. First of all, here's downtown St. Louis. We go due east, and they are right in here along the train tracks. I don't have my place marks turned on. But anyway, okay. So why are the Cahokia Mounds significant? On the back, this is a giant 300-mile long one.
Look at that.
Look at it, right? Wow. Right. Now, to seal the deal that this means something, we're going to zoom in on the back.
You can't unsee them. They're literally everywhere.
Look at this. Look at this. On the side of it, this one's huge.
Fractals.
And on the side of it is a tiny one that's it's tiny. It's 6 miles by 9 miles. And that's right here. And this is made of mountains. And I'll wait for the imagery to load because it looks like it's just tree clear cuts. But no, these are actual foothills. This goes up from 300 feet to 600 feet. It's 400 feet high almost. And it's exactly down to the mile, 6 miles by 9 miles. See 9 miles? Looks like a diamond, right? Okay. 9 miles, 9 miles, 6 miles, 5.9. I'm not doing it exactly. And 5.9 to 6. And now here's New Madrid. Here's the tiny StarFort. Now, right across the river, if I turn it this way, we go over here. Right over here, and this is the Ohio River where it comes down and meets up with the New Madrid. Go over to the east to the Ohio. And that gets in with what my wife found. But before we get into what my wife found, which is huge, we got to get back to this one. This one here, where St. Louis is on this side. I just showed you the StarFort down here. It's indisputable, 6 miles by 9 miles. Over here in St. Louis is the one I did a video on my YouTube channel, which is
excellent video, by the way.
This one right here, which is in downtown St. Louis. There is the old StarFort, which is confirmed, and the Geospatial Agency, the agency that does the mapping for all this stuff, for LIDAR, for ground penetrating radar. They're building their new headquarters right in the middle of this one, which I will trace out for you with my mouse if I need to.
Right in the center of the old, right? You can see the same angles there, and then you showed the old map of it, and we've looked at these maps many a time over, and the water tower, and it's a very famous remaining St. Louis water tower. It's a Corinthian column, I believe.
I'm going to try and find the picture here. I don't care if anybody sees my screen cap on this. Yeah, I do not. Yeah, I don't mind if people see what I've got in here. I need to have had that one open, but I've got a video on it, so you guys can all see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, this here is significant. This is huge because right across the river here are the Cahokia Mounds, and I will zoom in on them. They're right here. Let me.
And the train tracks just hidden up.
Okay, and now this has government installation built in the middle of it. Now there's one more. It's going to blow your mind. I already showed you the big one. Let me show it to you again. It is right here. It is 5-sided.
That's undeniable fractals repeating patterns over and over again.
there's a smaller one that's built in to the bigger one. And I'll trace it out for you so you can see it. And I'm not paradealing this. This is really here. It's 1/4 of it is its own.
You measure them out over and over again. It's the numbers don't lie. Numbers can't lie. And this is just the geometric structure and fractal structure of the realm or of matter of the earth, and how the energy unfolds.
This one right here, let me zoom in on the middle of it because look what's here. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, the big Army training base.
Yet another fort. And another big thing people need to understand is that the average definition of a star fort, or what you should have in your mind, they start with what's called a bastion fort, is what they're known on Wikipedia and in like history books. And they're also known as batteries. And there you go, that shape right there. And that they're literally everywhere. From what was the base of the Statue of Liberty in New York to what me and Campbell Autodidactic have found a wall that runs 2,000 kilometers long, right from where there currently is the war raging of the Dnieper River around the Azov Sea and the Black Sea, or the Black Sea and the Azov Sea. And there's this Dnieper River. And that's literally where the Ukrainians and the Russians are fighting, the west of the east. And from that exact Dnieper River that's separating their contact line right now, runs this channel up across all of northeastern Ukraine, and then all of northeastern Siberia, where about every, I think, kilometer or 2 kilometers, there's one of those same bastion battery forts into this wall. And then
do you see the snake? The snake's head and the shape of the craton itself.
Oh, yeah, I can see the head.
Okay, with its head cut off. Its head's cut off right at the New Madrid. This is New Madrid, the town of New Madrid. Okay, now this gets really heavy. Okay, so the Star Fort is here, 6x9. Backing it out, we have a bigger one with a military base in the middle of it, Fort Leonard Wood. That makes up 1/4 of the bigger one that goes out and points this way. Now, you're not going to believe it. It goes somewhere. Let me show you. We're going to just go from the back end of it, out the middle of it like it's pointing somewhere. And we're going to go out. We're just going to draw it. Here, I'm going to make sure it's lined up. Don't worry. But right there. Okay, I'm just bringing it randomly out into the ocean. Pretty far, you can see we're going out into the ocean from this. Now, I'm going to follow this. We're going to go across. We're going next to our California Star Fort that I already showed you, and we go out into the ocean here. Look what's there. This is one of the more famous, quote-unquote, UFO places, according to the mainstream media. They said this was, at first, they said it was a mistake of underwater bathymetric measurements and that the ships must have been crisscrossing in a way that caused the shape.
The size of it, like those are mountain ranges and trenches. Like that's such a macro size. It's unbelievable.
Lower right-hand corner of the screen, you might not be able to see it. It shows our elevation. You can see they're like 200 and 300 feet high and 200 and 300 feet deep. Some of them are mounds. The others are trenches. But notice the direction that which they go in. This is 5,000 feet down in the ocean.
Just pause for 1 second and give like visualization for people. They tried claiming that they had misdredged these themselves for how they got them there, and it's like these things are a difference of 400 feet from the 200 up they go and the 200 down they go, that they've carved into the bedrock and uplifted.
It's 100 miles long. The damn thing's 100 miles long. And it's again, 200 feet one side, 300 feet deep the other, and it goes into the plate. This is 5,000 feet down in the ocean, and you can clearly see these go into the plate like some kind of entrance or something. Now, weirdly, it points in the same direction back to this, to this big guy. Now, I understand there's going to be people that try to say that's pareidolia, but with the military bases in the middle of each one, and what does this point to? The famous Muskogee Airmen base from World War II. World War II Muskogee Airmen were training there of all the places out of Tulsa. But now, before we go any further, These are just the 4 big ones that are here in the United States. We get into other ones that I've found, and this gets into, well, we'll get back to the Midwest United States and the long skulls and all that good stuff. But this gets into the greater stuff that you guys have found with the geoglyphs around the world. For instance, I'm taking you all the way down here to a place called Rapa Nui. You might know it more famously as Easter Island. And out here at Rapa Nui, Easter Island, I'm going to turn on my volcano place marks just so it makes it a little easier for everybody to see where I'm talking about. But what we're going to show you here is a phenomenal discovery I made, proving that the plates and the islands themselves were made in the past at some point. 100%, I can prove it. So we'll start over here at Ascension Island out here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which we'll talk about later, because the Atlantic Ocean and Atlantis and so forth like that, we need to actually get that out of the way about Atlantis. But Ascension Island, if you measure from Ascension Island over to the nearest point on the tip of South America, it is exactly 1,400 miles. Now, you need to remember this 1,400-mile thing, because this proves that the islands are made at some point in the past.
Exactly. Me and Campbell have came to the same measurement and conclusion, and like especially when we first started looking in, I think to Nan Madol there and Easter Island, and then following the undersea straight, like what you're showing. It's just
so. I just measured from Ascension Island to South America. It's at 1,400 miles exactly. Now, here's our volcanic group for Rapa Nui, for Easter Island. And Rapa Nui itself is, we got to remember this, is a giant triangle, an equilateral triangle with a blown out side. Got to remember that because of the other one.
Right?
If we measure just roughly, we could just go into the middle of the volcanic group and measure over to the west to the next volcanic group middle. And it's right on down. If you go from one volcano to the other, it's exactly 1,400 miles. Okay, now that's weird. Okay, now that's 2. Now I'm going to do it again. We're going to go 1,400 more to the west, and where do we go? Look, we go into the middle of Tahiti. Now, if we go into the middle of Tahiti, you're going to see that Tahiti is shaped like a pentagon, but with a back end on it and an arrow pointing out slightly to the west. It's west-southwest. You see that? So it's got an arrow in front of it pointing us which way to go next. Now it goes next. We can go 1,400 more over, and you're not going to believe it.
Another Pentagon Island, exactly.
We go over here and we get 1,400 right down to the middle of the volcanic group, and we've got another one that's shaped almost exactly the same in 2 directions, an arrow pointing one way and an arrow pointing the other. It's eroded over time. Now that's 4 of them. 1,400, 1,400, 1,400, 1,400, going across the whole Pacific and Atlantic, connecting the land masses all the way across equally.
Did you hit Nan Madol yet?
Oh, no. We haven't gotten to Nan Madol yet.
So, so we had the one that was a pentagon and the 2 arrows, one on either side. Now we had the next one that was 2 arrows going into each other. And then let's see, another 1,400.
Oh, okay. Well, we go another 1,400 over here. Let me just type it in. I'll just type it in because this one speaks for itself. Micronesia. You may have heard of Micronesia before. It was right on the edge of all of our nuclear tests that we did over here at the Bikini Islands, and we blew the heck out of this place. Here's the one, the famous Bikini Atoll, where they did several of the tests, and you can see it's symmetrically shaped, and it may have been, guess what, it was called Operation Castle, by the way, with the nuke test that they did there, and there's nuclear again. But I want to show you Micronesia. This is what Bernie's talking about. Here's Micronesia as a whole, the whole island chain. But the island of Micronesia itself is a giant pentagon. Boom. Now, you might say that's a pareidolia moment where you're just seeing 5 sides. But to prove that it's 5-sided and it's meant to be 5 sides, we go on the east side of the pentagon, and here is the famous Nan Madol and Na Island and all that good stuff. And that's right here. Nan Madol is an ancient star fort made of hexagonal basalt columns,
which is fully acknowledged to be built from the sea and out, like the man-made reclaimed land, and it is essentially also the star fort. And Dutch, if you don't mind actually like exploring a bit of that island itself, going back into it, you'll see there's a whole bunch of canals that they're recognized in the Nan Madol area of being man-made and part of it, but then they actually run through that entire Pentagon Island. Perfect canals throughout some of the areas and around the coast and stuff that you'll see that.
It's interesting.
This is indisputable. It's I don't know exactly where you're talking about, but you're right. It goes all the way around. But the canals he's talking about, guys, in case you don't know, are connecting in between. Some of them are
some of them are there you can go. Now you can see some of those lines right there, because these are trees that are growing on top of the basalt man-made islands, and that it goes all the way through, and that you'll actually see those, and that it's like a Venice almost channels, and all basalt and completely man-made in the middle of nowhere, and once again at that exact 1400 mark.
It's indisputable that it's pentagonal shaped and that there's a Pentagon fort on the side of it. Now, get this. The week that you guys talked about this on your channel, that very week, a hurricane, which they call a cyclone, or what I think, a cyclone, kicked up over here. And it went and hit Japan. But they named it hurricane or cyclone Nan Madol, the same week that you discovered the Nan Madol thing and made it put it out over on Micronesia. In case you didn't know that.
They love doing that. It's for the algorithms. I swear to God. It's they'll create just like so it doesn't automatically go to Nikola Tesla every time you type in Tesla.
So
to Elon Musk and trying to sell you a car. They
do it with movies all the time, right?
It'll bring you back.
Okay, now this is the mind blower on the 1400 mile thing. I think the 1400 mile thing has to do with an ancient wall that exists going from here on South America back, and it's actually octagonal, and I will measure it out for you. The curvature of the Earth actually interferes with us measuring this, which makes me skeptical on the curvature of the Earth. But when you measure it, it goes almost like the shape of a star fort. Now, wait till you see this. This is gonna blow your mind. Here is Australia over here, going out to a pinnacle tip of Fiji. You see it, okay? Yeah. Now look what Alaska and Hawaii are doing. They're opposing each other, wouldn't you say? One arrow pointing one way, one arrow pointing the other. Now, in between them is an avenue that I've found that's exactly 2,000 miles wide. It's 2,000 miles wide exactly all the way across, and it measures from Easter Island all the way over to Nan Madol, and it's a 2,000 mile wide avenue. And I'm not doing an exact measurement. You can see it's from undersea. It's exactly 2,000.
Yeah, and like they're so straight. Like it's nuts.
Okay, so it's an avenue, and in the middle of this are three huge super volcanoes. We're told that look like giant craters. There's one here, and one here. This one is the most well known, called Tamu Massif, but it is in the middle point between the two opposing arrows, which are forced this way, one going one way, one going the other, with this giant avenue in between, filled with giant craters that goes back over to South America and connects in this way. And you have to look at the Earth upside down and sideways to even see the damn thing. Now, before anybody thinks that I'm tripping and that I'm just seeing shapes, let me remind you again one more time that the five-sided Antarctica, with its spade shape in the middle, or its StarForts shape of a continent itself, points to the north, which points into another one that's hard to see, but it's here. It's right here. This one goes up and points into the number 7 shaped bend of the Carlsberg Ridge, comes back out to the U.S. military base of Diego Garcia, and goes, it's hidden in the ocean, but you can see it now, that there's another one. This one points into this one. And this one is the same damn shape. It is. It's indisputable. I already measured it. It's just like the one in California, only it's way bigger.
Like, I already measured it, and it's indisputable. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I've already measured them. It's down to the point, down to the mile, 2,500 miles on either side. Now, people will say, Dutch, you're just seeing things. But let me show you.
No, you're measuring the numbers, and that's literally the proportions that it gives.
Here's how we view Earth normally, and here's how you're going to have to view all of Europe Asia, and China going forward. Over on the west side is India. Over on the east side is Russia. As we go to the north, see out here, it's submerged, but out here, up here at the North Pole, matches over here at Saudi Arabia. See it? And then we go to the north, and you have UK.
Like that same angle again. Yes,
it's a fractal. It's like it's another. This is a huge to see it.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's literally
right. It's a giant equilateral triangle. Yeah. I'm going to measure it. I'm going to measure it for you to prove that it's the same size all the way up to Portugal. But the curvature of the Earth is totally screwing with us on this. But you can still see it from point to point. It goes out on both sides, and it's an equilateral triangle that goes across this way as well. Now, you might say, "Oh, Dutch, you're tripping." It's just the same. Here's Scandinavia, here's Turkey, here's UK, here's Italy. You see how they branch off like a Christmas tree? Now watch. Look, here's Spain and Portugal.
Look at Portugal right there, bro.
This is Spain and Portugal. Look at Spain and Portugal, the home of the StarFort, right?
Wow.
Do you see it?
And you even see it again in the sea off the coast, right? Like off the corner of it.
Okay, so here's Portugal and Spain. Right smack in the middle of it is Madrid.
And there it is again. And again.
Okay, now, going off of, this is more like a 6-pointed star, a hexagram, or an 8-pointed star. But it's that classic StarFort shape where on one side and on the other, on one side and the other, over here and over here, it's symmetrical. It points somewhere. Okay. If we follow this just like the one I did in the United States, this points to the closest point that Ascension Island meets at, down here on the coast of South America, the closest point of South America to Europe. This points directly to it, directly across. Now, let's get into the other plates, and I'm going to get back into Europe in a second, because this one seems pretty big, right? Right? I mean, it's big. It's huge. It's all of Asia, all of Russia, all of Europe, all of Portugal. A giant star.
Blow my mind. Every which way you turn it, I'm seeing the same fractal over and over again.
There it is. It is. It's repeating in on itself. It's symmetrical on all sides. Now, I'm going to turn India.
That they're trenches, and that they're like mountains and like uplifts and downlifts and major like geological energy points.
Right. They're coming up to points and stuff. And now here's India, and you can see India points back down to Antarctica, where it's receiving energy. Look, the spade points up to the one that's broken, where you can clearly see it used to point straight up, and these two used to point right to each other.
Yeah, there's been a couple
connecting like a spark gap, right? I mean, like in Frankenstein movies where they'd have two wires and the electricity would be going zoop, zoop, zoop up the wire. That this would be going straight out into the side of this one. And now, let me show you the others. All of them do it. Here's North America. So check out North America.
Yeah, and look at how it's shattered there too.
Okay, Florida is on the right side. Broken apart in a million trillion pieces is Nunavut going up into Alaska on the left side. But you can clearly see it's doing the same thing on both sides of the plate, right? Then we go up to the north. Here's Newfoundland, the newfound land. And one side's blown out, but the other side is still there. And you can see it now. And I've already measured it. It's symmetrical as well. So now we've got a big pyramid, a huge one, a medium-sized pyramid. Now you start to understand why the ancient secret societies worship the pyramids, the 3 pyramids in particular. Now, let's take it up to the front. You're going to see it's the same. I could take it all the way back on either side. It's 3,600 miles. It's 37 right down to the mile. And it's 3,700 across. It's an equilateral triangle to where it makes the bend. Now, that's North America. So here's Europe, Asia. That's number 2. The third one is South America. Now, South America seems to me to be the most weathered one, but this is also where all of our pyramids are, and all of our Aztec pyramids and step pyramids. And this is a little harder to see, but I will show it to you. It goes down to here, and it makes the classic StarFort bend in down here. And over here, it's a river valley that's been eroded in time. But you can see it again. The mountains down here are coming in and going like a lightning bolt on the backside this way. And it comes in this way, and it's harder to see. But it does. It comes in, makes the lightning bolt shape, and comes in on that side there. Now, before you think that I'm seeing something, we're going to zoom in on the one that's still here, which is this one. built into the plate itself, pointing like a giant arrow across it. And this curvature of the Earth is really screwing with us on this because it's a perfect draw across. I will draw it for you to show you. We're going to go right through the center of it. We've got a giant blown out basin in the middle of here, but I'll draw it across just to prove it. Because again, I know there's going to be people that are not going to believe because they think I'm seeing something. But if I can draw the line through the center and it goes to the center of the next one, we got a problem. We've got symmetry.
No, it's if you're not seeing it,
Curvature of the Earth, really.
The geometry and the repeating equilateral triangles that you're measuring. It's a repeating geometry fractal. It's undeniable. It's not seeing something. It's identifying a pattern, measuring it, proving it, and showing it over and over again, now documenting it and using it to figure out the construct of this reality.
Do you see the mileage on here?
Yeah.
Okay, now on the back right side, we've got the big crater. I'm not joking on this. This thing's 666 miles long. It's going to play in a second because, look, we're going back down to Antarctica. This is a big deal, guys. This is a really big deal. I don't care what your superstitious beliefs are. If you're watching and you've got beliefs about the number 666 or whatever, down here on the back end, I measured this. I went to the big undersea mount where all these ships have overlapped for some reason right here on the volcano that's here, in case you can't see it. Let me just back it out one more time. We got a big volcano, and all the ships have overlapped right down here on the backside for some reason, as if they were looking at the volcano. Now, I can measure from the backside to the front side of Antarctica through the South Pole, and it's 6,666 miles long exactly if we measure back to the back end where the undersea mount is. And I already did the measurements to prove it. We go right down to it. I'm drawing it out right down to the mile. I can't get it down to the mile here. It's 6,665, but it goes right through the South Pole. To get it right through the center of the South Pole, the curvature of the Earth kind of messes with us a little bit, but it's 6,666 miles long, or 6,665 is all of Antarctica.
All of Antarctica.
All of Antarctica from back side to front, and I'm not cherry picking that. That goes right up
also
to the
666.
It's weird. It's just a weird thing, right? Like, okay, so now recapping, we've got this plate that's undeniably, this is all of Asia and Europe, and at the pinnacle tip of it, like a star on a Christmas tree, this points out to South America. Let's go around, because here's pyramid number 2.
Like that Portugal one is identical to the one that you've right going through California there, especially.
Yeah. It's an exact match. It's indisputable. Now, the final part on this is the Africa part. I just showed you all the rest of the plates, and they're all making either triangle, perfect pyramid shape, whatever you want to call it, StarForts shape. What about Africa? To see what's up with Africa, we have to look from almost a world away. It's so big. Now, I'm going to draw it back out to show it to you. Okay. It's like an arrowhead shape, just like the one down in Antarctica. The spade shape. Now, I'm going to draw it out for you just to prove it that this is really here. That we go all the way from back here at Madagascar, all the way up to South America, and back down and across over to here. And half of it is submerged. It's blown up. It's cut in half. Half of it's broken apart. It's got a big crack going through the middle of it. And I will draw it out for you on the mouse so you can see we do indeed connect across plate boundaries that come up. Go back down this way, and then this is just one half of it, and this is the other. And I think this may be the quote-unquote that continent that everybody would want to talk about as being the missing continent that went sinking, that off the backside, it's indisputable curve of the Earth again. But 5,500 miles on one side, 5,500 on the other, exactly 5,500. Then we come back to the back end of it, goes back down across Saudi Arabia, goes back across over. Do you see? I mean, it really is there. It's not me doing this out of pareidolia.
It's undeniable. It
really is there. And so this is Africa, the giant one. The biggest, I'd say, of all of them is the one that's fractured completely in half with the mid-Atlantic ridge, and it sank. Now, the way I know that this is the Ascension Island is right here on the side of it. So
that's the Atlantic, yeah?
Yeah, that's the Atlantic. That's half the Atlantis. And now look at this one. This one's a mind blower because this gets into StarForts. Actual StarForts as in Bastion Forts. This one, which makes up a good part of the Caribbean, and part of the arm of it goes underneath the United States and ends right down here. You can barely see it. It goes under the Florida Keys, and in the Florida Keys, right here, is our famous Fort Jefferson, the hexagonal brick star fort, where they got out here and supposedly built this in the Civil War, which is total BS. They did not build this in the Civil War. It's got Byzantinian, like cannons are going to be up there or something. Please. They built a walkway around this thing. This thing's made out of solid brick. Let me get this. Actually,
I just love how it's got a moat, but it's in the ocean, right?
Look at it.
Oh,
Byzantinian construction. And they got a big radio tower they built on it, by the way. These are the
dry. Right? Like, how many hurricanes have gone through this area and that it's completely withstood and surviving? Like,
it's impossible, you know. Now it's got an island over here that points in a direction.
They're all man-made. The Starfort Islands, at least 2/3, if not probably 100% of the Starfort Islands are man-made islands, just like they admit Nan Madol was, that we just showed you a little bit earlier, and that's a key part of it. Now you're seeing these same fractals being reused in an architectural layer and building method on these same exact energy points and being used by man in the architecture or somewhat.
I agree. No, I agree with everything you just said. That Key West, Florida, right here on the screen, the southernmost tip of the United States. If we go due west of Key West in the nature preserve, we've got an old Starfort shaped, arrow shaped island. And in the middle of it, we have an old carved geoglyph of a iguana, which was not in the United States until the 1700s. So this is older than that, which means there was
this one. You showed me this. The last time I saw it, I was just like, showed all of us this. I was watching live, and like,
this is Key West. This is west of Key West, and then here's our Starfort out here, built in the ocean, that they said was built in the Civil War, but I'm challenging that. I don't think it was.
How did they build islands during the Civil War? Like, at that time period, it just it's impossible.
16 million.
During the Civil War, we decided to take, and Campbell, you've done several videos on that one. And how many bricks is it or something?
16 million.
16 million bricks they would have had to make ship out to.
On ships, apparently. Yeah, it's just a silly story.
And
I mean, what point does a fort in the ocean serve? Like, boats would just sail around it. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, and cannons can only shoot 20 miles at the most.
Exactly. So you sail 25 and just go ha 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 ha. It's like dumb.
Now, I made a video on this part, which here are the Florida Keys. Just showed you the Starfort, indisputable. This is in the shape of the Starfort with the geoglyph inside. But this one was controversial. But up here in the woods, not the woods, in the swamps themselves, is another one. Now, I'm going to trace it out for the people who can't see it, but it's right. What drew my eye to it was this right angle in the trees itself. And I was looking through the Everglades. I just so happened to be, looking through the Everglades, and I found the Starfort. Now, really, the way I found this was the giant city. Do you see this, first of all? Now, on the inside of it is another one.
Another one.
This one. Yep. And it's got this on the side of it, letting us know that this has been made at some point in the past. That's circular, perfect circle. Anyway, this thing is out here this is a small one inside of the greater one that's here, that's in the swamp. This is now swamps of southern Florida. But the real thing is this. This is what it is. This, I'm going to turn it around so you can see it better. But I made a video on this already. And this is, I already measured it, but I'll measure it again for you on here live. It's 2.5 to 3 miles. Depending on where you measure on the corners, where the blown out corners are, it's 3 by 5 miles. Now, I understand that there's going to be people that say that it's pareidolia, what I'm seeing here, or what anybody can see if you just look at the screen. is that it's a rectangle surrounded symmetrically by lines that spread out in all directions like an old bastion. And this is the Florida Keys now. These connect out to the Keys in all directions like a spider web. And I wouldn't ask anybody to accept any of that, except for on the back side of it, back up here in the woods, back up here in the marshes, is the StarFort that it connects to on the back side, which is indisputable in the topography here. It really is there. That's not just a river. That is the real shape going right into the back end of this huge, this is all underwater. Now, the name of the key here is called Dildo Key.
What?
Oh, no, hold on. I'm sorry. Dildo and Johnson Key. Side by side. Yeah. Oh, no. Hey, before anybody gets a dirty mind, it's named after the dildo cactus.
Oh, my God. Don't use that, whatever you do.
Yeah. So they named those.
Instantly, any thoughts you had just...
It's horrible. And the reason they did that, I think, is that if anybody found this, that they would have to report they found something out by that key. And then it would, the media can't report on it. Nobody's going to touch it. Nobody's going to look into it. And now
it could just be a subtle little message saying, go and F yourself.
Yeah, basically it is. And so what this is an evidence of an ancient civilization. The petroglyph or the geoglyph that's carved into the StarFort shaped island. This proves that ancient people had the ability to sculpt and shape an island in the shape of a giant diamond that's bigger than anything that the Chinese could build today, and that it points somewhere. It actually points, these actually point you to the nearest landmass, which is Cuba's edge, which has another one that points you down here. Now, where do you see this? So here's the Caribbean. Here's Florida. I just took you below the StarFort, and it goes all the way down here to the coast of the United States, right next to Washington, D.C. D.C. is right here. But back over to the west, we go out and we go down to the Caribbean. Do you see it? It's a right-angled rectangular shape that looks like an old port that's been carved out. This is 10,000 feet deep. And it's, again, an indisputable shape of the StarFort that's built into the whole Caribbean. And this makes up the other final StarFort shape, which is the other cracked StarFort that's fully submerged. There isn't one part of it left, but it's right next to what I would call the Atlantean plate, which is this one, the African one that I already showed you. The one next to it is fully cracked in half and submerged. But it's there. It goes from back here, following our fracture zone, right up into the pinnacle tip, where we go right into Central America, Mexico, where guess what's right here? All the old pyramids. All the pyramids are right there. Here, let me bring it back due north so you can see.
Oh, okay, that's right, Central America, yeah.
Right. So here's the coast of Mexico. Here's the coast of Cancun. And if you guys have ever been to Cancun or Tulum or any of those places along here along the coast, I mean, there's Cancun. The Tulum pyramids are right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We got the submerged one.
It's a beautiful spot. I've been there, and it is super advanced to the point that if you stand in the middle of the field and clap, you will get a Caesar beam of your clap back at you, or like a magnification of it back at you, where like it hits you and stuns you almost. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
And that also, this guy right here, there's another one of these heads in the snake that go up along these stairs of the central part of this pyramid. And I was actually blessed and able to be there the one time I've been to the Cancun area and to Chichen Itza back when I was 20. God, it's been, I don't even want to say how long. Anywho, I was there during the winter solstice, and as the sun set, the shadow literally moves on the building, and that the snake, it becomes a snake or dragon that comes alive on the step pyramid on the corners of it. And that
this is South America right here, northern South America in the rainforest, where the quote unquote cannibals live, French Guinea. Okay, and right down in the middle of it is this. Now we're told this is a lava flow.
Look at that geometry again. How did How did lava just flow in an equilateral triangle?
No. Lava flow BS story. This is obviously something else. And part of it is somewhat hidden. You have to actually look at a greater view to see the outside edges of it. This is elevation wise. You can see, hopefully you can see the outside edge of it, which is dark green. And it actually goes out around it. Now there's another one. Now, I don't know if you're going to see the face in it or not, but
I can see the face.
the skull. Okay. I don't know if you're going to see the creepy skull.
Oh, instantly. Wow. Sorry. I wasn't paying attention. It was like,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah. They got the headhunter. These are where the headhunters are from, guys. So we got pyramid, we got headhunter, we got the pyramid and headhunter geoglyph in the lava, quote unquote. And then you got the 3 pyramids, which again are weathered over time. 2 of them are visible. 1 of them is not. And this is South America turned sideways. Now, I'm going to bring you into, wait till we get to Australia. You're going to love Australia. But I got to bring you into the others first. Here's South Africa. And at the south tip of South Africa, here's, of course, South Africa. But what I want to draw your attention to are the mountains.
There, the same as your California one. And those are mountains. Like that's what's the craziest part is like, this isn't just like lines or trees, pareidolia. No, this is identical geometries repeating itself over and over and over again, and it's the highest points and like the lowest points. Like those are mountain ranges. It's just nuts.
Yeah, and it's blown out on the back side, back right side again. This is Southern Africa, all of Southern Africa being one of them, a part of a giant structure that was built a long time ago. It blew out on the back side, which makes me think wireless power flowing in like anode cathode. You're going to be flowing from one side to the other and out the tip, right? And now, Australia, you ready?
I'm ready.
Azay!
Oi.
Seriously, are you ready? Because look at South Australia. Here we go. We're going to go in and zoom in on Southern Australia. Now, these are mountain ranges too. This is not forestry clear cut. Let me just prove that to you. So you see how we go from plains up into foothills. Okay. Now, it's a little obscure and a little hard to see, but I'm going to draw it and I'll prove it to you. So coming out the backside, and it looks truncated at the front end. It is truncated, but it does go out to a pinnacle tip out at the plate boundary. We're going to go down the other side and see that it's a perfect match. And off one side, just like the United States, we've got one that's still intact. The other is eroded over time, but it's still there. And now, before you think that I'm tripping, this is actually a greater structure. Let me draw it out for you. Now, on the inside of it, hold on, I'm not doing it perfect. There we go. On the inside of it, it makes a curve inward, and it's been weathered over time, but you can see it still in the actual between valley and mountain on both sides. Now, I know it looks like I might just be seeing something there, and it goes back, but on the back right side over here, look what we've got.
Is that the HARP facility?
Yep. The hexagonal HARP facility, which is called Exmo. Wow. Just like the one over in the United States in Florida, only it's an old StarFort made of brick. Wow. It's the same thing, though. It's the same size. It's the same size, guys. Go compare the one over here to the one over in the Florida Keys. Now look at the other side of Australia. This is Tasmania out here off the coast. But I'm going to draw it out for you again to prove it to you, just in case you don't believe. It comes down in the topography itself. Hold on, let me draw it out for you there. Comes out and goes down into, I know this is going to be the most hard to believe, but when I turn it sideways, you're going to understand what I'm showing you in about 2 seconds. Okay, now, here's what we're really dealing with Australia. And I'm just roughly drawing it out because the curvature of the Earth really does interfere with us. But we are going into and bending around, coming in, going down, back out, and back around. Now, in the center, what appears to be a backwards eye of Ra almost, which is right where all of our deep earthquakes are happening. So on this side of the plate, you might say, okay, look, this would be the biggest stretch, I think, on all of the plates that I've found so far, is that this one is an equilateral triangle, but it goes in through the center of the plate. and it's really hard to see. This would be, when you back it out further, you can see that
energy points over and
it
over
certainly
again.
is part of the arrowhead shape, but that cuts into this, which is, of course, the one that I've already showed you. So this one is the only one which I would have to ask you to see the shape because it's on its own. But now that you know what to look for, you can definitely go. And guess what's right here? Uluru, Ayers Rock. Where it comes together, Ayers Rock is right there. Let me go turn our borders and labels back on.
Up a little bit, yeah.
Where are my place marks? Hold on. I got place marks that show it all here.
It's up from where it says Australia. It's around there a bit.
Yeah. It's like right at, there we go. Okay. So coming back to the middle pinnacle tip of it. There we go. So on the back side of it, where it comes back down and goes back up in, Ayers Rock, I'll call it Ayers Rock's on the back side of it. It's not directly at where it bends, but it's just when I see that, and I have to show you, the other plates are all doing it. Australia is the one, to me, it seems like it's the most mysterious one. The one that's connected between them all, submerged. People were asking me about Asia and what's going on over here. There are smaller versions of what I've been talking about, but this goes from Taiwan to Japan to Guam, back down to Philippines. And it's symmetrical again. This plate here, the diamond-shaped plate, but the curvature of the Earth is what's interfering with us seeing this. That's the only thing interfering with us seeing this perfectly, is if this was all laid out on a flat map, it would be, it would be perfect. You would see.
I'm wondering what the geometry is going to make if it was drawn on a flat circle and not a flat rectangle, because that would make Antarctica a bunch of triangles pointing inwards, wouldn't it? Pretty much.
It would, and it would make Antarctica. They're all pointing back. They're all pointing to each other and opposing each other. In some instances, pointing against each other. In other words, it looks like they were used for some kind of wireless power transmission.
Exactly.
As far as I can see, we're talking about very low frequency.
Yeah, geometry, platonic solids, all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Now, I know this is all mind-numbing for everybody, but I got more. I've got so much more. This is insane.
Just in case your mind hasn't been blown 10 times over yet, there's more.
Look at the screen now. This is, Bernie, I think you actually have some videos on this, or maybe Autodidactic, you might have some videos on this.
Oscilloscope, yeah.
Yeah, the oscilloscope sound program that allows you to put shapes on your oscilloscope. Yes. And this video in particular comes from Gabor Cizerier from over in Russia or something. And what this program does for everybody who's a viewer who doesn't know, it's a computer program that takes the probes of an oscilloscope, basically, and you run the computer program into your oscilloscope, and it combines sawtooth waves, square waves, and sine waves into shapes. And it can make any shape using the combination of those shapes. You can make pretty much any shape you want on the screen. But it's doing it using electricity, just so everybody knows. It's using the probes of, it's modulating the electricity in the computer program and putting it into your oscilloscope. But I want you to see what happens as he brings it up frequency-wise from 0 up. Listen. I'm going to stop it in a minute here. Can you hear it?
Oh, yeah. There we go. Right there. Got into a couple star shape.
Now watch. Pentagon.
Yeah.
And as he brings in the square and sawtooth, we start to get the StarForts shape. The 5-sided, or in many cases 6-sided, but it's 5-sided. It's going off the outside edge. Okay, so what's happening here is the combination of a sawtooth wave, a square wave, and a sine wave, all three together are making that StarFort, that pentagonal and hexagonal with the shapes off the end of the StarFort. That tone.
Yeah.
That tone in particular. Now, that tone in particular ties in with 180 hertz of all things. And 180 hertz matters because of the conch shells inside of the Indian mounds. And guess what? Guess what? Yeah, conch shells found inside of Indian mounds.
Do you know what they use to make old cement is seashells, right?
Yeah.
Conch. Concrete.
Yes.
Concrete.
Yes. Concrete. Oh, hey. Hey. Concrete. You might be onto something there.
Yeah, exactly. Made out of the conch shell a bit. The limestone, yeah, it's a portion. You're 100% right, Campbell. That's a key part of it.
See on the screen now, what we have here is something my wife found. She was doing research on her family genealogy and found information on southern Missouri, which then led her to an explorer by the name of Dickinson. Dickinson was an explorer in the early 1800s who unearthed many different mounds. And what he found, what he said he found, and what he showed he found were giant skeletons of a lost race of giants, according to Dickinson, the explorer himself. On page 107 of the study about him, it talks about how he found giants of a lost race right here. Supposedly a gigantic lost race of mound builders. One facet of the mound builder myth. On the other hand, Dickinson was a trained physician, and it seems like he could recognize large skeletons when he saw one. And Dickinson then went on to find human bones down below ancient extinct animals.
Yeah,
Dickinson,
can you zoom in on that a bit more too, please, brother? And shout out to Duchess. Thank you for all of your wife's wonderful work. And like that right there, the different layers are identical to what I see in the Badlands of Drumheller, Alberta, right by where I live. In this city's backyards, there's these mounds that flat-topped and alternating similar colors of these dirts. And that this is portraying that there's essentially levels of different giants buried within it. And it also, I can't help but how similar it is to that Freemason pyramid and all the steps on it. Kind of creepy.
It is, actually. It is. Now, look at the size of the trees in comparison to the size of the skeletons.
Yeah.
And now in the middle, they found in many of the middles of the mounds a giant skeleton holding a conch shell. Now the conch shell is the 180 hertz, and the 180 hertz, when you blow the conch shell, and it makes that tone. Guess what else is working on that tone? Transmission lines in the third harmonics of transmission for power in your power lines, which explains why they're building these power lines over the different mounds. Because they're collecting this 180 hertz energy. Yeah. And now to seal the deal, look at this. I'll take you into what this guy found, and we're going to go through. This is from a painting that he did, or that he had commissioned, of his sails down the Ohio and Mississippi River Valley. And what he found was stuff like this in the rivers, stone heads, ancient carvings on the hillsides, labyrinths that they called them, huge mounded bastion forts, as they called them. And these are all cave paintings. Now, when he got to a place at the Ohio River, let me take you back to Google Earth now. This matters. We're going back to Missouri over here in the United States, if I can get the proper orientation. There we go. And we're going right down here to the town of New Madrid again, to our StarFort, the 6x9 mile one. Now, right across the river over here is a place called Cave in Rock, Illinois. And at Cave in Rock, Illinois, this ties in with what my wife found, which is this. Let's zoom in and go take a quick gander and see. And they might have a better view of it here. Hold on. Let me see if I've got a closer zoom in view on the cave here. There we go. So the cave has some pretty interesting stuff in it, like an Ouroboros of a snake eating its tail, a symbol seen in other cultures around the world. And in the lower right-hand corner, what you're going to see is that look that you make when you find a 12 to 15-foot tall long skull.
Nice.
When you find the long skull in the Cave in Rock in Illinois, and look at what he's doing. He's making a little kind of ghoulish, but over here, we're going to go over and look at this guy, which is a younger version that's still mummified, but he's covering his eyes. Now, this matters. A viewer sent me something of I think they're called the Caracas mummies. Maybe that's not the name. Caracas. The Paracas mummies.
Paracas,
mummies. And the Paracas, hold on. Got to spell it right.
Paracas from
got it.
Peru.
There they
Caracas,
are.
Peru.
And what do? They cover their eyes.
Cover
They're
their
covering
eyes.
their eyes. Now,
And they're
that
always
matters.
in that seated position too, yeah.
Yep, they're in this position right here. Now hold up, because they are from all the way down here at Peru, on the edge of our 666-mile-long
Right
StarForts.
by the Nazca
Right
line.
near. They're right from there.
And
so to have them
Paracas, yeah.
all the way up here doing the same thing means they're connected, obviously. But to prove that they're connected, there's some other weird things that are in this giant panorama painting from across the country or across the Midwest United States. Huge mounds. And let me see if I don't have all the pictures open at once. Look at this.
No.
Oh,
Now this is big. This is really big. This isn't just like a small little statue that they have carved here. They have it in a greater scene. I want to say, let me see if I can get the greater scene. There it is.
Wow.
So that's huge, right? And look at him. Look at him. The guy's an Indian guy from India with a bald and a third eye. Look, he's got the third eye.
Yeah, or
Oh, he's got a third eye. Yeah,
come on, he's got the third eye. He's got a goatee. He's
Whoa.
bald. That's a llama or something from over in Asia.
Where is this?
So-
In Mississippi Valley.
Yeah, 1800s Mississippi Valley.
Wow.
Okay, now, so this guy went across and started excavating all kinds of mounds. He documented everything across the area. He was part of something that they ended up calling the mound controversy. And I want to tell everybody who's listening now, you need to get on this. You need to start looking up Dickeson, Dickeson, and mound controversy. Apparently, there was a huge controversy about who built them. And these naturalists, including a guy named Lyell, who ties in with earthquakes and volcanoes of all things, Lyell got involved with this. According to page 108, Lyell shows up on the scene to debunk Dickeson. And Lyell's a naturalist who Darwin quoted. In his voyages across the ocean, Darwin brought Lyell's books as inspiration of his wonderful volcanology work, where he went into the layers of the earth and put numbers assigned to them, which are totally bunk. And Lyell's a chill.
What's
Lyell's
hilarious, I've got to say, like, his voyage around, before he put forward this evolution thing, it was taught and accepted everywhere that it was catastrophism. Geology class was catastrophism. History was Atlantis, and that there was something big before that, and that everything happens by these mass catastrophisms. And then they came with Darwin and got rid of that idea and got rid of pretty much everything else that could have existed before it. Because YOLO.
Here's an example of something that many mud flood people talk about when they show San Francisco houses, and the houses built on top of mounds. So when you look at those San Francisco houses and they're built up on top of that, and you're like, why did they build that there? They built their houses originally on top of the mounds. And some people say it was just, because they liked building on top of mounds. I'll say they were probably using wireless power. And those houses were tapping into that. That's why they built into it. But look at the size of these, and look at the labyrinths and the nature of the size of some of these structures. I'm going to take you back to the start of this panorama, and let's see if we've even got it in here. I don't know if this is going to be it or if this is the first one. Or is it in the middle one? I got to find the picture to show it to you of all the pyramids that they found were just insanely huge, which I can't believe I can't find the picture of it now. Hold on. It's one of these. There's the head. There it is. Okay, so look at this. These are from actual voyages along the Ohio and Mississippi River.
What?
Look at it. Yes.
Like, that's identical to Caracas.
They tore them down.
In Peru, another one in Mexico City, another one in the UK and England as well, I believe, or in like the Scottish area. These, like,
yeah, they
God.
tore these down and dreamed the mound builders controversy. So the mound controversy was We had naturalists, which are people who just goofballs at the time in the 1800s who gave us all the right. We've got the naturalists, and they stepped in to deny that there were advanced people who built the mounds, and then they justified that to destroy them, and they used the dirt for this and that, and they tore them down. Now look at what else my wife found. Along with that, she found this at loc.gov, wherever that is. And this is a book, a documentation of all the StarForts and all the Indian mounds that were torn down. It's 500 pages long. I will provide all the links for this. Yeah, I'll provide all the links. And they have pictures. They have pictures and descriptions.
Sorry, I can promise once you send this to us, we will do a full video series reading out every one of those 500 pages and documenting these. That's absolutely nuts. And thank you, Duchess. Like, this is restoring history. So it's like when you found those certain petroglyphs, and then they tried claiming that you were racist because you used some sort of wrong terminology. It's like you are literally rebuilding.
I said American Indian,
Aboriginal people's histories, and
it turns out, yeah. I said American Indian. I was supposed to say Native American. It turns out Native Americans wrote me and told me that they call themselves American Indian, so it's no big deal. They don't expect a guy like me.
It's never those. It's just everyone who's a different color that gets offended. That's, come on.
You catch me on a good day. If you catch me on a good day, I might be a slight pale gray, depending on how long I stayed up or how much coffee I drank.
Put me out in the Australian summer, and I'm a black person. Come on.
Okay, you get nice and tan. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, man.
Healthy melanin, Now check it out. Look at this. So they documented these, and when they came through and tore them down, they measured the height elevation of them, and we get a side profile on height elevations and what was there. 140 acres on the inside, labyrinths, everything. So between this guy Dickinson and what he found as he's sailing down the Ohio River, long skulls, evidence of Peruvian civilization, and then according to Dickinson himself, 12 to 15 feet or more in size for height. And that's insane. That's 15 feet tall. We're talking as tall as a Victorian mansion's ceilings. In a Victorian mansion, we're talking that high. That's insanely tall people. And the depictions of them sitting down or curled up are almost up to his chest level, just as a point of reference. So, if you're a grown man here and they're curled up and their long skulls coming up to his shoulders. So if they stood, they would be way, way, way bigger than him. And that's in the cave painting from his own descriptions of what he found. Now, finally, to seal the deal that we're dealing with some weird stuff going on across the Midwest. Well, I mean, we already know that we're dealing with some weird stuff going on. But across the Midwest, the legend of the giants is carried on with the Native Americans who went to war with them, apparently. Did you guys know this?
Yeah, the red-headed ones. Sometimes
yes, I do. The Lovelock Caves.
They're talking about being hundreds of feet tall. That they were
hundreds of feet tall.
Yeah, that's what I had a Native American person write me directly below my video, and it was on the discovery I made up in Idaho, which I didn't even talk about yet, but the discovery I made up in Idaho, and they wrote me about the legend of the giants and how they fought the giants. That took hundreds of Native Americans to kill one of them, and that they were eating them, that the giants would come and eat them. That's why they built their structures on the cliff sides that were hundreds of feet up, and that the giants couldn't rappel down, apparently, for some reason. Maybe they didn't have a rope strong enough to hold them. And the little paths on the side of the mountains were too narrow for them to tiptoe across to come over to. And that's why they did their structures on the sides and in the hills to hide from the cannibalistic giants.
That's reasonable, right? Birds will nest up to avoid predators. If there was cannibalistic giants hunting us, so would we. And probably also while we were underground too.
Yeah, man.
But this 3 pyramid thing and this big, middle, small, this then mirrors with over in Egypt and all the other stuff what we know about, the regular pyramid stuff with the 3 pyramids. So that's just in a nutshell of what I found. Long skulls in the United States, all the plates. Oh, and to top it all off, the earthquakes. I haven't even talked about that the earthquakes are hitting down below these areas on the pinnacle tips of them. So like the pinnacle tip of Scotland up here, okay, where all of our old castles.
That's how you became aware of these shapes and the geometry and the fractal in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I had no clue about StarForts or the shapes or anything until I stumbled into Tartaria. And I went and looked and I said, wow, that's really weird that shape is in California. And the pinnacle tip of the one in California goes right out to, this is the San Andreas. That's the San Andreas. Wow. So the pinnacle tip of it points to the most active earthquake zone on the planet that we know of. And then you got the New Madrid and this one over here and on the side of it. And then across the river is the Cave and Rock where they found the damn long skulls, which is what we call them here in the Midwest, by the way. We don't call them elongated skulls. We call them goddamn long skulls because they're cannibals. We don't respect them.
Right. Have you seen that one movie? It was like Time something where like they go back in time, or like there's a time machine, and then like when they go back even further, they found like this underground race that was like feeding off the normal humans, and they have like
it's a famous book.
Yeah, it was from a famous book, and I'm pretty sure they had elongated skulls in the movie. And
did they?
Yeah,
because they did a remake with Guy Pearce or something. Yeah, sort of 20 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's weird. In the movie Interview with a Vampire, that when they show Dracula in the shadow version, like they always show him and he's got the long hair and the long skull. That's weird. That is weird. That is weird. I just realized that. Oh, that's odd. Dracula. Dracula, Interview with a Vampire.
It's like those R people. They have funny heads, don't they? Those Rocky people and Roth people.
Fits with the Coneheads. The Coneheads and Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd's huge UFO buff. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
The Crystal
He's
Skull.
He's a Canadian, eh?
Yeah. Well, he did that. That's why he did the long skulls, though. The eggheads or the coneheads are really just long skulls, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. The coneheads are long skulls.
Undeniable. Did you ever see or hear of Karen Hughes' work? She was the former. Do you want to tell the story, Campbell, or should I?
Well, she was just a high finance banker, and started sort of looking around and got onto conspiracy type stuff and started researching banking. And because she was very high up, and she basically realized that a lot of these really, really high level bankers have got elongated skulls.
Yeah,
I've got some photo. Actually, I wonder if I can find the photo.
She was working for the World Bank, and that she stated that places like the Vatican, wherever they'd be wearing those big hats, and they were positions of powers, that underneath them there would be these elongated people. That's deep down.
There's also footage. I mean, I don't know how real it is, but there is footage of like a elongated skull dude in the Vatican, and of course, the hats in the Vatican, right? And then you've got the Dogon and Owanis and the god, and they've got the fish head hats, which is basically the mitre that the Pope wears. So, I mean, it's just massive, right? It's just, I mean, even here I've got a picture of a giant, and he's Alaskan, and he's got a massive big hat on, like a Beefeater hat.
The Dogon you mentioned with the Nomos and the fish people, and coming from the water, and that's really weird because that ties in with I have a family friend from Iran who came over just right before the revolution happened. So Iran used to be free, right? Like they were Western basically. Anyway, he came over here with his family and became a family friend of ours. And he told me the story of the history of Iran. This is from a person from Iran. And he's like, we are the people from the water. We are the Aryans, he said. He looks at me and he goes, we are the Aryans. And I go, what? And I'm a equality punk, okay? Like, at the time I've got a mohawk and, I'm a teenager, and he's telling me, and I'm like, you're Aryan? What are you talking about? And he's like, no. He's like, you misunderstand. It means we come from the water. We call ourselves Aryans. And we're blue-eye, with red hair. And I go, red hair? And I had no idea what he was telling me at the time. I was 16 or 17 years old. But it all makes sense now that they believe they came from the water with the blue eyes and all that stuff. But that goes back to the Nomos in North Africa and the fish-eyed people in the Sirius. See, this gets really weird, guys. The Nomos tribe of North Africa knew about the star Sirius, and they worshipped it. And they knew that it was a binary star system. They knew it was two stars side by side. But the only way you could know that is to have a telescope to see. But they said that they were told by the fish people who came up out of the water, and they were the most nasty looking people, they said, or something. They called them, just disgusting looking creatures that came up out of the water and showed them the knowledge of astronomy and the stars. And they had this legend going back thousands of years or hundreds of years, long before Galileo. And then this ties in with Nebuchadnezzar, because then the king of Babylon comes out, and all these depictions of Nebuchadnezzar and all these old drawings or cave drawings, whatever you want to call them, depictions of him show him wearing a fish garb and a fish scales, and he's wearing a fish head. He's literally wearing a fish head. Fish heads, right? The song Fish Heads now makes more sense. Fish heads and the Pope. This ties in with the Pope and the Pope's hat. The Pope's hat looks like a fish, and this Christian symbol is a fish. And the fish thing ties in way more with the fish people and the Nomos than it does with Christian symbology. And that was adapted in as Christian symbology, but that originally it ties in with the fish people. And there it is. It's indisputable.
Exactly, so weird, right? And then Starbucks. So, yeah, man, it's all there. Mermaids, merman.
Yeah, the Melusine. Starbucks.
Yeah, Starbucks, yeah, man.
What am I drinking a cup of there?
What are you drinking exactly, man? If they're trying to take over the planet, what are they feeding us?
I'll bring up the logo. Good old Starbucks logo. And you could search Starbucks logo Melusine, Melusine, and I'll bring up a screen cap so you guys can see it. That this is actually ties in with... Oh, hold on. I don't have my screen capture on. Damn. 1 second. Share screen. Sorry, guys. Forgot to turn it on. There we go. So going over to the Melusine Starbucks logo. Check it out. This is the real Starbucks logo. And she's...
don't have it
now,
yet.
why do we call her... She's...
Are you sharing screen?
Position. She's in the buck position.
We don't see... Mike,
you don't see it.
To share it again, please.
No.
Okay, hold on.
Bernie's a fish head.
Okay, we got it now.
Yes, sir. Yes, we can.
Here we go. So this is the Starbucks logo. This is the one that they've got on all the cups now. And you can see an ancient depiction of the Melusine here. Yep. Now, what you do is you mate with her, okay, and out comes the juices of life.
Nice.
Now, I don't know really, but the legend goes back a long way. I was exaggerating. I'm coding.
And it's in with Ishtar. That into sirens as well, right? Who used to sing boats into the rocks and stuff.
Right. Now, this again. Now, why did Starbucks adopt this as their logo? Right, like that gets into a whole separate thing about why those symbols are used. But the fish people, this ties in with the fish people. So when we talk about the fish people, we're talking about things that this isn't me making this up. I just want everybody to understand that, we're not talking about me making up the fish people. That's on the Starbucks logo. The Starbucks logo ties in with Melusine fish people, going back to the merfolk. And God, this goes in with
a massive story to that one.
Yeah, it's a domino effect of weird stuff that we would have to talk about to even explain this to the viewers. But this plate stuff, I cannot stress it enough. The plate thing is the biggest thing. It's proof, guys. If you needed proof of man-made structures that are huge, that are the size of continents, that are 1,400 miles spaced out across the planet, this should get, I stand by it. I'll stake all my earthquake, all my reputation, all my everything. Those are made at some point in the past by someone who had the ability to make plates.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a bit more on that too. I've got to get a round map now of Google Earth and plot it out on a flat surface and see what we come up with, because there's clearly some kind of shape there. They wouldn't be just random, irregular regular shapes, would they? There's got to be a pattern, but because it's all been contorted onto a ball, we can't see it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Dutch, you had also mentioned that in your forecasting model that there was a segment where it's like the energy disappears for a couple of days or something, and it had you questioning the geometry of the realm. And can you explain that a bit more?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I'd love to. Okay, so as we watch earthquakes, let me go ahead and let me turn the display capture actually back on. Sorry, I have to keep switching between it, but I don't want to hog your screen the whole time.
Okay. This is all for you. You take as much as you need.
Yeah, guys.
Hogwarts.
God bless your heart.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, guys. Okay. Let's go over and show you the earthquakes. Okay. So in the past several years, my viewers and I all watch the earthquakes start at a certain spot, usually with our deep earthquakes, and they usually start down below the pinnacle tips of these giant plates, which I've now proved to you, at least all of them look like they're StarForts shaped, and all of them are StarForts shaped, except for this one, which is where all our deep earthquakes are coming up from down below. So in other words, down below Australia, down below the Indo-Australian plate, deep earthquakes. They spread out, and they go out and follow the plate boundaries. And the plate boundaries, I show the USGS map of all things. I know USGS, but here it is. Here are the plate boundaries. They're red lines that you see go out across the planet. Now, the earthquakes follow those plate boundaries. It's no shock. I mean, you push up on the underside of something, and it comes up and goes, the pressure comes up and goes through it and passes out away. Now, what I noticed is that the earthquakes, they flow out and they go over all the way till we get to the mid-Atlantic ridge, to those fractured plates that I showed you. And when they get to these X's, we see the energy, either one of two things happens. Either the energy goes back through the planet and comes back out the other side with new deep earthquakes on the antipode, the opposite side of the planet, or somehow the energy gets from here back around and down to here and starts over. It's like Scooby-Doo running out the side of one screen and coming, or a video game. Mario runs out on one side and comes out on the other. And I can't explain it. Other than there may be, I'm sorry. Yeah, there may be an explanation, but the explanation is more disturbing than I think anything that anybody's proposed, which is when our energy goes out and gets over to here, that it is going back around and coming back out on the other side. But on the other side of what? On the other side of what? This is
there's more out there, man.
Yes.
Have you looked at any of the old maps? Have you seen like the 14, like the Monty Planisphere and things like that show more land in the middle and on the outside?
I've seen it all. Oh, yeah. Yes, I've seen the Mu maps. I've seen the old Asian map that shows the other continents spread out much further. So I've got two possible explanations for this, and both of them are disturbing. One is that we're missing, there's a reason they're not showing us the Earth from far away. There's got to be. Otherwise, we'd have a live stream of it all the time. So there's something they don't want us to see. And the only logical answers I can come to is there's land masses, like the Earth really is round, but there's land masses, huge continents, that have been hidden from us, that if we're watching a live view of the Earth, we would see something west of California float by, huge. We'd be like, what is that? That's a giant landmass out there in the middle of the Pacific. What is that? It's a giant continent. And it lights up at night. There's people there. What are we doing? Like, okay, that could be there. Yeah. It could be that Earth is not round, though, but it's not flat. It could be oblong. It could be that Earth is more like a StarForts shape, like a diamond, like a faceted jewel.
A geometric shape would kind of make more sense, based on what we see in our experience.
It's troubling whichever way you go. So whether the earthquakes are going through the planet and coming back out the other side, or whether they're going around the outside edge of some kind of flat.
Exactly, around the circuit.
Right. That we're dealing. There's some reason they're not showing us Earth from far away. That's not good. Like whatever the reason is, it ain't good, man. Because like it's been long enough, we should see it. So what are we going to find out? That Earth is like a jewel? Or are we going to find out that it's flat? Or are we going to find out that it's an asteroid shape? Is it going to be shaped like 3 pyramids? I mean, what is it going to be? All the plates in these shapes lend me to think that might be shaped more spiked-like, which would fly in the face of flat earthers and round earthers. Oh, you know, I'm a spiked earth, I'm a COVID earth. I just don't know what to think. All I know for certain is that the seismic is going from one side of the planet to the other. When it gets to our X's, it goes through or around. And if it goes around
from the axis,
and this ties in with Edward,
like evidence essentially of like a toroid or a hollow Earth. Like especially if it's going through, like it should be dense and blocked, but it could be a hollow straight through shot and a toroid.
So does that line go from the Arctic to the Antarctic? Your line of X's?
Yes.
Basically?
Oh yeah. That's the
literally cutting it in half.
Oh yeah. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge is a fracture zone that starts at a super. Let me show you.
Okay.
Yeah, let me show it to you this way. This will make a lot more sense. The Russians, everybody missed this. There's a giant super volcano or a crater at the pinnacle tip of the North Pole. Here's the physical North Pole. And here is something I found on my own when earthquakes started to strike here. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a 60-mile long by 30-mile wide caldera. It's the same size as Toba's supervolcano. And this is where the Mid-Atlantic Ridge starts at the North Pole. Then we come down, and it's a fracture that goes all the way through Iceland, and it goes all the way down like a lightning bolt through those 2 giant StarForts-shaped plates that I showed you down to the South Pole and connects into this, which goes back to our shape that's shaped like a... Here, let me get it back on the screen. There we go. Goes back to our giant spade shape and StarForts shape. Now, the weird thing about all of this, as if this isn't all weird enough, that with the planet shape possibly being oblong or faceted like a jewel, or for some reason they're not showing it to us, we can say certainly that I think somehow someone a long time ago was able to raise these mountains and these plates up out of the plate using a frequency much like that video I played for you, where he's on his oscilloscope, but it would be much, much more powerful, and it would come up through the plate and vibrate up like cymatics, and that you would vibrate up that sound or that tone. That ties in with the start of the video and your awesome intro, by the way, which is showing the church, because the church is cymatics.
Exactly. That you can see videos, they do it with the iron filings and stuff too. They sort of play frequencies and like builds in 3D, builds shapes.
Yeah, and when you start combining the different waves and the different wave geometries, the higher frequencies within it, then you start getting multi-dimensional geometric motions and form within it.
And of course, it ties straight into Dr. Emoto's work with the ice crystals, which we see the stars in and all that kind of stuff as well.
The cymatics to me is a very interesting part about it, because like this ties in with what you're doing, Bernie, with even with monoatomic generation of molecules in water, that when we're talking about stripping electrons, when you're putting like power through something and it gets to a point where there's too much power and it accumulates up on the tip of that and it starts to flow out and strip those electrons off, what do you think would happen in geopolymer? This ties in with Paul Cook and what they're scraping off of
actually, give me a moment, and I'm going to resend the link to Paul. I had sent it to him earlier, but I hadn't heard from him. I'm going to send it to him again, see if we can get him in here for the last little bit.
Very cool. Very cool, because Paul Cook is finding all those scrape marks on the walls, and he's talking about a facade that, or as he calls a render, that the geopolymer has been stripped off. But why are they stripping it off? What if I'm just throwing this out there? What if the geopolymer they were using was electrically conductive, and that's why it'd be valuable today? that there'd
Well,
be something.
100% it was. It was like in this crystalline supercapacitant nanotechnology that they incorporated to all of it. That's why we can't replicate quote unquote Roman concrete today. Why Roman nanotechnology, even in cups, cast cups, were better. And then when you start getting into these massive layers of geopolymer structure that currently they claim as naturally formed, and then looking at it and seeing that it's actually mega ruins, mega remnants of these underground, under mountain catacombs and cities and past civilizations, and it was all made of geopolymer. And geopolymer is essentially cement concrete, except that it's exponentially harder on its Mohs hardness scale of how it solidifies or bonds, how it bonds, and that it's actually a chemical reaction bonding that the geopolymer forms into, as opposed to concrete or sandstone sort of thing where it's just pressured bonds, etc. That's very weak, and that you're able to get theoretically all the way up close to almost 9.5 probably with some of these potential geopolymers, and them replicating the granite, the marble, and everything on it. And which also explains why you'll find brick sometimes, or mud brick, or different conglomerates, mixtures of like concrete or mud concretes in the pillars or in the inside walls of these ancient structures. And then this inch to foot thick basalt or basalt, or what's the one I'm trying to think of? Dolomites, granite, as well as the
Quartz.
Yeah, quartzite is in it a bit. Yeah, the granite stuff, but there's a term for it. Paul knows it, and it's a specific term for the geopolymer of granite.
Yeah, it's oh gosh,
like schist or shite. Right?
Give me a minute, and I'll think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted there. Went on a little tangent. Let me try and contact Paul, and please continue, guys.
Sorry, I was muted. I was just looking for a video from the University of Texas. It was a working group on geopolymer released by the University of Texas. It looks like it's been deleted, but I think I might still have a link on it. I made my own geopolymer like Paul did, and I followed the directions that they had listed on the Geopolymer Institute site. So in case you didn't know, Geopolymer Institute put out directions on how to make geopolymer like the pyramids. And it's like, certain mix or whatever. But then within 6 months of us all talking about this, oh, wait, hold on. Within that's me breaking my geopolymer. Within 6 months of us all talking about this, they University of Texas came out studying geopolymer, and that they found that it's twice as hard as Portland cement, and that it could be used to replace current concrete, and that they then went and built an airport down in Australia made of the geopolymer.
What?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me that.
Oh, yeah. Australia geopolymer airport.
That's interesting, because there's buildings in Miami. There's a town. What is it? Basically, all the buildings there are poured geopolymer. St. Augustine, is that Florida?
There we go. I just posted it in the chat room. 70,000 tons of geopolymer concrete for airport. This is 2014.
Dutch, if you have an article up, do you mind sharing it on ours as well? As you're no longer sharing screen here if you're trying to show us something.
Here. Okay, and I apologize. I don't want to hog up the screen.
Right. We like the descriptions as well. They're good.
Okay, Entire screen. Allow. There we go. 70,000 tons of geopolymer concrete for
what?
airport in Australia. Brisbane West Airport.
Wow.
27,000 Queenslander attended to see this 66,000 ton of carbon neutral blah, blah, blah.
Carbon neutral.
Yeah, right. Got to save the planet, man.
Yeah, man. Like by building an airport, I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah,
let's build an airport so then we can fly planes around the planet while saving it. Okay, nice one.
But the geopolymer stuff is really, really interesting because they could have mixed in what's with all the radiation and the nuclear next to these spots. What if they mixed in some kind of uranium that we didn't know about, and that was providing some low amount of power in the geopolymer, uranium-based geopolymer that had its own power source built in? I mean, it could be, and it all overloaded.
Have you come across the red bricks that that they use as batteries? Have you come across that research?
I saw that, and you know what? Something that Paul Cook might want to try when he's mixing his geopolymer. You don't want to really touch it or handle it with your hands, but graphene. That graphene will transfer and hold power if you put it in layers. Remember the Indian mound that we were looking at with the layer of coal at the bottom?
Yes.
That the layer thing will generate power, actually. That if you
it's a capacitor. That's a capacitor.
Yeah, basically, yes. Yeah, it'll store energy or generate it depending on what we put into it. And so in the capacitor, it stores the energy. And if you do carbon, aluminum, copper, and calcium, which fits with the bones, by the way. So in the Indian mound, you got a base layer of carbon. Then you've got and then you got the conch shell in the middle to project it out. Now, the conch shell was worn by kings and queens back in the day. They would wear a conch shell over their third eye, or the center of their forehead. Third eye is pineal, but they'd wear it over the center of their eye, just like the Egyptians with the coiled snake. So the Egyptians have the coiled snake over their third eye, the conch shell with its coil over their third eye. And then I'm not saying I'm not into any of that. I'm just saying that, like, frequency wise, it's all on 180 hertz or so on the conch shell thing. 180 hertz ties in with electricity. And then we get into the kings and queens. And in the kings and queens, they had scepters and orbs, right?
Yep, and crowns and jewelry.
The Egyptians.
We're looking into electroculture, and obviously with BurnEye's kind of stuff, orgonite and all that. And that ties into the jewelry they were wearing. And I did an interview, and with all this, like, tensor coils and that, they're actually tuned. So they're making tuned tensor coils. So literally you could tune it like a bracelet to 180 hertz or whatever you want to.
Speaking of bracelets, getting into the Egyptians. The Egyptians kind of show the same thing. Instead of a scepter and an orb, the Egyptians are using the ankh or ankh.
The ankh, yes, and the jed pillar, yes.
Okay, see how they're holding that? Okay, yes. Right. They got that, and then the other hand, they've got the what was it called?
The jed pillar.
Right. There it is.
Oh, the scepter. That's the scepter. The jed pillar is the capacitor. You know, the pillar, and it's got the lines across it. Yeah. Depictions of a jed pillar and an ankh sort of together. You know.
Now they all have some kind of elongated thing on their head. And they all have the coiled snake at the third eye or something at the level of the forehead. Okay, each one of them. And I propose that this
flail and hook
is the same thing as this. This is a Vajra.
Yes. These were both.
Now this is.
Yeah, we went over. I went over this in an interview last week. Like this exact stuff.
You know about Elon Musk, right?
No, who's that? Never heard of him.
Elon Musk posted this tweet, and he said, "This is what's on my nightstand." And on the nightstand, he's got 3 American books: The History of America and Democracy, red, white, and blue books in the back. He's got Diet Coke cans. He's got a fake gun from some video game, and then he's got the Vajra, and then he's got the classic gun pointing the other way. But now the Vajra he carries around with him everywhere. The Vajra
Oh my God, I need to make a Vajra. Yeah, they're everywhere, those things.
Vajra wireless power. This gets into depictions of the goddesses. Well, actually, the gods. Vajra power projection, maybe? Maybe I won't bring it up. I don't know. It's not bringing it up on Google. Go figure. But in ancient depictions of India, the gods are holding this in one hand, just like we're talking about with the Egyptians, and just like the kings and queens from Europe. They're holding the scepter and the orb. Now, you know the orb.
The scepter and the orb, and the Egyptians, the holy hand grenade, the globus crucis.
The orb,
and the Egyptians have the flail and hook. When
you shake the orb, it makes a bell sound. Did you know that? That on the
yes,
inside,
I did. Yes,
boom,
yes,
boom, 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 boom,
yes,
yeah.
I didn't. Yeah. Yes.
So it's got to be wireless power. With the thing on the head, it's got to be for projecting your thoughts or controlling people or something. It would make sense that if they were really powerful, why wouldn't they be able to force people to do things? Subject kind of thing. They they would be able to, with wireless power, force you to be able to build force you to be a slave or force you to build a pyramid.
The kings and the queens, right? They're the ones with what? The ones with the power. Right?
I hadn't thought about it that way.
It's all in the spelling.
Wow.
I mean, and we elect them, right? We elect them to power. We go to the polling booth between the two poles and we elect them to power.
Electricity, elect.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
Or elect, ELECT, RICITY, electricity, right?
Exactly. It's and the trick of electing them. Yeah.
Wow. The spell casting, exactly.
Spelling, man.
It is. It is. Now that gets into language and tone and
yes. And then you can go straight into throat singing in the cathedrals.
The devil, easy tiger.
Mate! There he is! There he is! Oh, I'm starstruck, man. I'm blushing. My man crush is complete.
Says the guy with 600,000.
You're making me sweat, dude. You're making me sweat.
Yeah, all right, mate. Big up, guys. How you doing?
Oh, good. Welcome.
Brother, one love, easy tiger.
Yeah, listen, I'm doing this on my phone, by the way, and I've got 6%, but I thought I'd jump in and say hello to everyone.
Yes,
Much love, brother. Glad you did. We'll have to do a whole nother one, plan it out here.
Yeah, 100%, man. Definitely. So I look a bit rough, mate. I've been out and about collecting nuggets, haven't I?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, can you see that?
Watching.
Oh, wow, nice. Yeah, I can see where you are.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. I'm on the field now, man.
The geopolymer on the site, boots on the ground.
Geopolymer.
Geopolymer.
Yeah, I wonder. I'll take you in here. I just went in here. I don't know where my phone's going to do.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Caving in that red layer.
I know, mate. I know.
Wow.
So earlier when I was describing Paul's layer of
on the
these
side
caves
of,
of former buildings, it's the geopolymer, that red layer that they call sandstone here, that whole red layer, continental layering of it is what Paul is now finding out that's most likely built and was constructed through geopolymer by some humanity or past
interesting color, right? Red, iron.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful color. It's something you'd see in Petra or Africa or something like that.
It's the exact same stuff you see there.
Yeah, exactly, man.
That's wild. Paul, I see, I hear you talk about the geologist and them being full of crap. I agree 100%. You are not only on to something like tremendous about the construction of the place, you're 100% on it, man. This is
pick up, mate. That's nice coming from you, mate.
To talk to you. I'm starstruck, really, because you've made
a big discovery. Around, mate. Trust me.
Yeah,
everybody's starstruck.
Starstruck, yeah.
You can be starstruck. Everybody's starstruck.
Yeah, the only star I've got is a brown star.
Oh, come on. Let's take this children.
Sorry, that was a little bit too crude.
Starfish in here, man. Come on.
Sorry about that. Let's cut that bit out somehow.
We're live on all our channels. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Listen, I'm gonna go and get a Cornish pasty now anyway, because I've been not fasting, but like I haven't eaten nothing all day, so I just thought I'd pop in the silo. I've got a minimal battery as well, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, so I need to keep it up.
Thank you very much.
This is awesome. We'll have to do a live at some point with me, Bernie, all you guys, and we'll all get together and we'll talk. Definitely. This is
100%, mate. Definitely, because I've been collecting loads of stuff, and again, Dutch, it'd be an honour, mate, as well. I mean, like me and Bernie and Cam, we're like peas in a pod anyway. So to do a session with you would be something else, mate. It'd be something else.
Very cool. Very cool. Definitely, we'll do it.
Got one coming up with Michelle Gibson. Me and Campbell actually did one with her last night. And me and Paul have another one with her on Saturday, March 25th. And she would be another perfect researcher to connect to all of the alignments and macro
have you checked out her
geometries you're finding, Mike?
Michelle Gibson has done a lot of stuff on Earth alignments and things.
Yeah, and canals and stuff, man. So, yeah, that'd be brilliant, mate. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Well,
this is great.
I'm gonna jump out now, guys. Anyway,
cool,
cheers,
brother.
Paul.
Much love.
Great to see you. Anyway, all right. Ta-da.
See ya.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
That guy will put a smile on your face every time you hear him talk. I'll tell you what.
Isn't he? Yeah, I know. That Cockney, yeah, man. I don't even know
our plan. I don't know if you've seen any of the Science of Sound series that we've been doing. Dutch, but Ominous, my good friend Ken the beatboxer, his ideal dream location to perform is the Sophageum in Malta.
Malta.
And, Paul Cook, he started out finding most of this stuff, the geopolymer, and discovering it in the StarForts, being in Malta, which is a giant island that is one massive star island. It's crazy. It really is.
Well, there's also Analog, Ben from Waking Up with Analog. What was that island? I can't remember what it, but he's got proof that there is an island that was man-made. Right? It's just so we've got to go to Malta, guys. Right?
We got to go to Malta. Let's go to Malta.
Sorry, to finish that thought. We are going to get Ominous, and we're going to do an episode of the Science of Sound and a giant meetup of all of us in Malta. And do
you coming, Dutch?
I'm there. Right. Duchess and I will both be there. I'll bring my better half, and I'll bring a frequency tone generator so we can hit 180 hertz.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll bring a frequency tone generator and all the meters and everything. I'll bring my Geiger counters. I'll bring all the electronic equipment, EMF detectors, everything. I'll bring it all.
Oh, man, let's do it.
And
also,
we're going to have to do
180 hertz dance party.
Well,
it'll be like the Matrix, only without any about naked women.
Yeah, bugger.
It's a dance party, not a rave.
Who's Morpheus? Party. Is Bernie Morpheus? Then does that mean he's leading the underground rave? It's going to smell a little hippie-ish. You might get a few whiffs of some stuff.
Right. Well, it's Sophie. The Sophageum is underground, so it's gonna. Music performance.
Yeah, man.
Can we get Hutchinson there? Can we please get Hutchinson?
Yeah, let's get Hutchinson. Yeah, man.
Oh my God, this would be like the trifecta.
And that's what I was just about to bring up, is that we have to schedule as well another future interview with John Hutchinson, Jeremiah, and Jeremy, the alien scientist, to get to the super technical levels of the science and the ultimate nerd out that you guys will have, that's even way over my head a lot of the time.
I love John and Nancy. They came in. John and Nancy came here to St. Louis back in 2011, and we met. They were driving through, and I put them up for 2 days at a hotel, and we got to hang out and play with their trailer full of gear, and it was awesome. Wow. I got a video of it. Yeah, I got video of that, our meetup back in 2011. I'd love to talk to them. I haven't talked to them in 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah, we're doing crystal battery cells now series. So the next one we get scheduled, I will let you know and email you the invite for that as well. Just a couple files of old maps that decided to open up. And this is a repeating one from what seems like the pre-reset of Terra Australis, where Australia was part of Antarctica. And I would like
See
to
those
get your
points,
thoughts on
huh?
this, Dutch. Does this seem to be going along those same ridge lines or fracture lines that you found? And I have shout out Eric Hecker's comment up here. He's another good one that we'll have to have on a future technical panel. Eric spent a year living, working down at the South Pole.
And I don't think
Oh, you're muted, Dutch.
Wow. Okay. Well, working down at the South Pole, I could tell you a story. There's a chief scientist of a place called Leidos, Leidos. They do all the, I guess they handle all the shipping of all the goods down to Antarctica. And this guy joined a group that hates me. This Antarctic scientist. It's so weird, man. Something's going on down in Antarctica. I'd love to talk to you about. And we should definitely talk outside of this.
In Antarctica. Jeez, I'd be proud of that.
Wow.
That's cool.
Wow. These maps here, I'll tell you what. So, for instance, the first map you showed, if you bent that around origami style, that the bottom of the Earth, that would bend into that ace of spades shape. Yeah, like a flower of life. Really, I would say.
That's what I'm seeing, right? You're seeing
life,
those equilateral triangle points out on like the fractal level. I'm pretty sure it will overlay on the now indentation there. So it would have what was once up is now sunk.
That's something else. The way to view all of these StarFort things that I found so far is either turning the Earth 45 degrees or 90 degrees. So, I mean, we're talking about, 45 or 90, like a full right angle. You have to turn Earth on its side to see them properly in their proper orientation. And we know, scientists already told us about this goes into something else entirely I got to bring up, which is Halley's Comet. And Halley's Comet, the discoverer of Halley's Comet, was his name Edwin? Or Edward?
Yeah,
Edwin.
Yeah, Edwin.
Okay. Halley discovered the Halley's Comet. But after he discovered the Halley's Comet, he sailed to the high seas on a pirate ship, what looked like a pirate ship. And he took a special compass that he made that measured the North and the South Pole, what he called the fixed poles, the North and South fixed poles, and the two other poles that he said are moving along the equator. And that he was taking the ship.
When was this?
Following the equator. This is Edwin Halley in the 1700s. Following with a special compass he made. The moving inner poles that he called them, with the inner sun and the hollow earth. And that Edwin Halley believed there was an inner sun in a hollow earth with two different poles. The fixed poles are tied to the crust. And that the actual moving poles are going along the equator. And he sailed around the world following them. And nobody knows about this. You have to go look it up in freaking old books and shit to find this stuff.
God.
Yeah, for real. And nobody knows what kind of compass he made it himself. And I'm trying to find out if I'd make it if I could. I would do a fundraiser if I had to.
So have you heard about I can't remember his name. There was a guy and he was a UFO researcher from New Zealand, and he was following UFOs and he found that they were always taking the same path, and he ended up mapping these power, I guess, grids, and all the UFOs were basically using these grids for power and flying around on them. I can't remember what his name is, though. I'll have to find it out. I mean, and then I just can't help but think of the big friendly giant and that kind of stuff, right? When they step into upside down land. Is there another Earth underneath us, right? With another sun and like two poles or something? Oh, God. You're doing my head in, Dutch.
Right,
this gets into the earthquakes. That there's something going on down below down below the San Andreas, the pinnacle of the Starfort, down below the New Madrid, the biggest earthquake in U.S. history. This gets in the Titans, the giants, and the difference between a Titan and a giant. A giant would be something that we would talk about maybe being 10 to 15, 20 feet tall, like what I showed you with the mounds. But then we get into the Titans, and this is how I found Tartaria, which was searching the ancient Greek legend. And I found out that there was a war between Kronos and Zeus, the Titans, who took the side of Kronos, and Zeus and the gods. And that the Titans were thousands of feet tall, they said.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know. I don't know. But
in the Bible, doesn't it say that Adam was 900 feet tall?
There's in the book of Enoch, it talks about.
I was going to say, I believe that's the book of Enoch. Yeah.
In the book of Enoch, it definitely talks about giants, Nephilim, fallen angels. But what would we call a fallen angel is somebody who's not from Earth, and comes from somewhere else and not human. So, I mean, people would call them aliens, but I would call them fallen angels. I mean,
fallen if they crashed too, right? Like if literally fell from the sky.
Well, I mean, here's another one for you, fallen angels, stars, right? What do they get us to worship? Stars, right? From Hollywood, right? Hollywood is the tree that they make magical wands from. And then films are made up of a cast, right? And then they have their news where they do a broadcast. It's all stars, right? And magic, like fallen angels, stars.
Oh, yeah. This gets into a whole thing about like corporate logos and why did the media companies, right? Like, oh my God, guys, we could have a discussion on this. My God, I had no idea you were even into it.
We're going to have like a conspiracy marathon, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. Conspiracy. Which
641 watch.
Which hat do we wear?
Oh, he's got the hat. All right.
The Sherlock. We got the Sherlock hat,
man.
Right? Or if we're going to talk conspiracies, I suppose we should put on the top hat, right? Or
I've already got
the Sherlock hat. Elongated, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. This one's the best one.
The Faraday cage around the dome.
I've only got a jester's hat, man.
Yeah. Well, you need the Indiana Jones hat, or you need the tinfoil Dora. I've got a tinfoil fedora.
You've got a tinfoil Dora. Oh my God.
My tinfoil Dora will amplify, and it will collect as well.
Oh my goodness, Campbell. That's not real? Is that real?
Really
wow! I didn't see that. Wow.
I have to change my screen, or
that actually exists?
Yeah, man.
Oh my god! I thought that was like a cover or like a streaming effect.
Listen,
it's a Jesticap.
It's a Jesticap, man. Even bills.
We got the cowboy.
So there you go.
And I got the shout out to
God, everyone's got hats.
Brand. We'll do the little brand toque there.
And
welcome, Gerald. Good day, Gerald. Gerald's a major part of the real science that we do, and he wants to actually incorporate these vortex coils and the geopolymer aspects and take it to the next level. And also you're already charging in mung beans right now with pulsing your coils and the electric culture experiments.
They're actually growing right now. What's that, Campbell?
That's a question.
Illuminati confirmed. Shriner hat.
Love that, eh?
He's the Grand Poobah.
The Grand Poobah, yeah.
Well, good to meet you, Dutch. I'm overwhelmed. Like, you're awesome, dude. I've been watching you since you had maybe 400 subscribers. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you, man.
Awesome work.
Dude,
awesome.
Thank you.
That was 6 channels ago too, remember?
It was. You know what? I said I was going to get that article from NASDAQ, but, hearing that you're working on geopolymer, what is it again? You're doing geopolymer for power storage? Is that what it is? Or?
Well, as soon as I get my formula right on geopolymer, I'm actually going to be building a replica of a pyramid that works, because I have vortex coils already, which is kind of like the fire within, if you want to look at it that way. So what I'm going to be doing is placing a specific type of geometrical coil inside the pyramid that's built with geopolymer, and I'm going to see if it resonates in a way where it'll create more energy of a working battery system than just basically a tomb is what they believe it is. So that's my goal anyway. That's what I'm working on.
That's cool.
That is really cool. I can't wait to see what the results are. And I mean, obviously, if it works, that it's just phenomenal. It's
Well, as of now, the vortex coil that I've chosen for it, I can take a 12 volt 1 amp wall plug, and I can light up a 150 watt LED grow beam at maximum for literally like 12 watts. So that coupled with the geopolymer acting as a battery resonator, maybe get some more output than what I'm getting now. So that's the goal.
that's huge. That's huge. Even if you're generating 1 watt, even 1 watt out of it would be phenomenal. So I mean, that's just wow. You know, I'll if you want to talk off here, I'd be happy to talk with you too. I've got something I'd like to share with you. I've got a video I made called Wireless Power Printed on Paper, or just Power Printed on Paper. And it has to do with layers and electrons, valence electrons and so forth. But it might come in handy for you if you want to use it. I'll give it to you. I put it out there for the world to use. I'll give you the formula and how to make it and everything.
You give me the formula, and if it works, I'll give you a working machine once it's complete. There you go.
No way.
I could use as many LED lights as possible.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, now I did an experiment yesterday, and this is something I've got on video. I haven't released yet, but I'm going to release in the very next few days. I can
right now,
light,
right here.
No, I can't do it right here right now. It's on my separate camera, so I can't. I got to upload it on my laptop. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but I'm now lighting LEDs, which is the bank of 4. The strip that you see in one of the videos, it's probably about 80 watts of LED. Then I'm lighting another 15 watt LED bulb, as well as running that power into a transformer that's charging a 12 volt battery, all off of 8 watts. So I'm playing with it, and it's amazing tech. It's going to be released for free. I'm going to go after the market of people that can't build them or don't want to build them themselves, but all the plans and everything and how to build them will be released for free, so that anyone that wants to build them themselves can. So I've been doing tutorials. Those will be getting released on BurnEye's channel because I promised him. So he's got the scoop, but that's coming. So I'm almost there.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I mean, you know, who wants to be a billionaire? Honestly, like, if you really think about it, like, who would really want to be a billionaire? It'd be, you know, with more money comes more problems. So billionaire would suck. So it's better.
They only let you have that much if they have something else on you. You know, like that's what I mean.
If you're getting, you know, free land, free electricity, you know, growing your own food, you don't need $1 billion, do you?
Well, that's the other part of it too. The electroculture. If we prove it in these experiments that I'm doing now, from what I learned in the past and what I'm doing now, and all the old data that I've gotten from all these newspapers, just blows my mind. We're going to be able to grow food 1/3 quicker with almost double the output, at least at 60%.
Wow.
So that's going to help a ton of people once these experiments complete, if they're conclusive. Again, right now they're experiments.
And it's also less water, no fertilizer and less water too, isn't it?
Yes, big time. Yeah. And it can all be stem from atmospheric electricity. You could use a little solar panel to start it. It's so easy how this can be put together. So one step at a time. But again, when those experiments are conclusive, then again, that's another aspect to this tech. So my belief system is, when it comes to the pyramids, when they were operating, and I'm sorry if I'm taking up the spotlight here for a moment, but when they were operating, they acted as power systems that ionized the air at the base of the pyramid. And with the ebb and flow of the River Nile, which was much closer to the pyramid at the time, because of what's underneath the pyramid, which is basically a huge piezoelectric crystal, when the ebb and flow of the water would come up from the waxing and waning of the moon, it would create that pressure and high voltage within the pyramid. And the whole high voltage coupled with breaking water from into hydrogen and oxygen the flow of the gas turning into plasma with the sound coupled with the resonance of the actual geopolymer of the pyramid itself acted as an ionization for the whole ground area, like a big electroculture system, and the water acted as the negative. So it was almost like a Garden of Eden surrounding all the pyramids when they were in operation. That's part of the theory.
If they remove the water, that would turn them off.
Yep. Yeah, and there was a couple other reasons why they shut off. Like if you go back into the history books of when I wouldn't say history books. You'd have to actually go into the Bible and you go to Moses when he took the Israelites out of Egypt. He also took the Ark of the Covenant. At least that's theory.
Which so also fit exactly inside the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid.
Which, because of the way it was built, would act like a giant capacitor.
Your capacitor, yeah, exactly.
On that point, it would facilitate the pulse within the resonance of the pyramid itself. So
okay, so that could kill it as well. So it was, yeah.
So that's part of the theory. I'm gonna kind of release that out all in a series of videos in the near future. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with that.
I think you're right, Gerald. You know, I just wanted to show you something that I put it into the chat room while we're talking here, but.
You mentioned bring it up on screen. Let's all see.
Oh, I will. I'll bring it up here on screen right now. Check it out. Look at this. This is now. First of all, you mentioned the capacitor and the water flowing. It's just into St. Louis, Missouri, for instance. Here in St. Louis, here's a plan of the French from the 1790s showing St. Louis downtown. And on the north side, look which way the north is. So north is pointing to the right, but in the north side of St. Louis, we have an old StarFort where they're building the Geospatial Agency now, which I showed at the start of this broadcast. This is where the Geospatial Agency is being built now in 2023. And you'll notice that around it is water, and it's flowing out and then falling down a waterfall where they have a bridge. And then it goes down to the Mississippi River. Now, the St. Louis Arch has been built right here along the river, and right across the river are the Cahokia Mounds with their whole layer thing going on with the multiple layers.
Earth batteries.
Right. Now, the flowing water is a big thing because this StarFort here has been hidden. Now, why would the U.S. government come in and build all these bases in the middle of each one of these StarFort shapes when it's so obvious now the flowing water thing ties in? This also ties in with ghosts. I'm not into, ghost hunting, but I did do ghost hunts before. And I know that there's all kinds of talk about flowing water and spirits and all kinds of stuff like that. So there's something to this.
Water holds memory.
Yeah, exactly. And they could possibly be an electrostatic formulation of, say, like a plasma, but due to the memory in the water and the water creating the electrostatic flow by going past the geopolymer that could have some sort of property in that sense, it could actually create a spot where you would see that as an apparition, but really it's a plasmatic form of memory that comes from the water. It's just a thought.
I like that, actually. That resonates with me. So it's like plasma and water, or plasma conscious memory taking form out of the memory of water.
I don't know if it's conscious. Think of it more like a snapshot of a moment in time that's repeated due to those
formerly conscious moment. A recorded conscious moment, a flicker, essentially.
That kind of seems more realistic. I don't know. Again, it's just a thought.
Yeah, it's like those ghost cameras they used to have. In the 1800s, you've seen those, all like like they're mirrors, and they get like apparitions and ghosts in them, like these weird machines they had.
Yeah, that's
seen those pictures.
I've never looked into that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll pop up now. Sorry, what were you saying there, Mr. Dutch, Mr. Synth? Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Either or. The ghost thing. I'm not trying to get too weird on us or anything, but on the ghost thing, that the Victorian mansions are the mud flutters, right? So we've got the Victorian mansions, we've got the mud flutters, we've got the use of what you could call, I mean, what would you want to call it? Some kind of geometry? I don't want to call it sacred geometry because that gets a little, onto a different
that's
realm.
why it is sacred. It's
the
geometry that is the structure of the universe, energy, matter, and the realm.
Geometry gives off a field, like certain different fields and stuff, based on the shapes. Yeah.
This could
Kind
explain
of goes to the theory of what you're finding, Dutch. You're finding geometrical energy forms that were literally turned into matter of previous civilizations and how they operated, maybe on some sort of a subconscious level. I don't know, but what you're finding is absolutely amazing. So
it could be the long skulls have a resonance. I mean, it might be something as simple as a longer wave in your skull and, a standing wave in your skull or something. I mean,
possible.
That's how they're telepathic.
Yeah, definitely, like telepathy. But it wouldn't be mystical telepathy. It would be scientific telepathy. There'd be a reason behind it. There'd be some reason that would happen. That would explain why they were special, why they were the kings and queens, why they had the long skulls.
Yeah.
They were literally projecting their thoughts, and it's just possible.
And then what do they put on the top of all the cathedrals and basilicas? Are domes, right? What are they called? Bald men, chrome dome.
Hey, chrome dome, that fits with a lot of church steeples have mercury in the steeple tip, right?
Yes,
you guys know this
about
the mercury?
Yeah. Mercury,
now this fits with something Paul Cook found, which was the mercury arc rectifier.
Yes.
The rectifier converts AC, the radio wave, into DC for use,
and vice versa.
Yeah, DC to AC, the rectification, right? And that gets
and it self-rectifies so it never burns out. That's the other crazy part about that mercury rectifier. And then they were
and of course, now mercury's illegal because it kills you, right? Even though kids used to play with it in their hands in the 60s, now it's suddenly deadly.
Yeah, same with uranium, right? Like, radioactive. It's supposedly
like
lead. Lead
and
is
where do we get radiation from? Like Marie Curie, right? Mercury.
Oh yeah. Oh hey, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, Marie Curie. Yeah. it's everywhere. It's all spelling right. They tell us, man. They tell us. We just got to work it out.
In your face. It's straight up in your face. It's like Woodrow Wilson being president during World War I, right? Like Woodrow Wilson, Calvin Coolidge, Franz Ferdinand. They're all double-letter names. It's like, wait, that's World War I. Like, World War I, Woodrow Wilson, Calvin Coolidge.
World War I, where they had planes, flying around that were invented literally 3 years prior, and then suddenly they had machine guns mounted on them and planes everywhere, and it's just dumb.
The plane story. You guys know I found a steam-powered plane, right?
Oh,
no. Yeah. Built by Langley. Look this one up. Search Langley. That first aircraft carrier is named after this guy. It's hidden in history.
We demand you are the screen hog today, so you've already got it. You just post it up, please, for us to see.
All right, let me get it here. Let me search Langley steam powered airplane. Now this was years before the Wright brothers. So let me get this on screen here. Hold on. This is funny. I can't believe I'm going down this rabbit hole. Yeah, I wasn't planning on it, but
hey, here with the mud flood, his story. The reset Tartarian StarFort community. We need some steampunk in here, and
so first of all,
powered plane before the Wright brothers.
Right, and the pictures of this thing flying in the sky were taken by Alexander Graham Bell. So it was hidden, right? And now it was powered by steam, and they launched it from a catapult to get it going. But once it was up, it kept going as long as you have water in there, and it had a condenser that would pull water out of the air and put it back into its tank so it could keep flying through the moist air. And they fly through the clouds to collect more water, to put into the condenser, to give itself more steam, to turn it and keep going. And they said it was, 1896. Look, first genuine success on May 6, 1896. Whoops.
Wow.
I'm looking for that mercury rectifier right now in the drive that's been put together for old technologies. So I've also read somewhere that there was an actual electric plane in 1916. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
I believe that.
Wow.
Hey,
I'm
how about the
Tesla electric car? Oh yeah, that's the one. Is that New Mexico? Oh no, that's
This is the Ukraine Great Wall of StarForts here, and so let's just take a 5-minute bathroom break or smoke break for whoever needs.
Yes,
and I'm going to play this clip, and it's this clip right here is you play it through Twitter, and it blocks the ads and actually gives you higher quality audio and video than playing through YouTube itself. And as you can see right here, that is that same geometry of the what they call the bastion fort or the battery star fort here. And this is a buried one, and that we're going to show here that you find one about every mile along this wall for thousands of kilometers across the Ukraine and Siberia, the former Tartaria, and that these are the same basic battery geometries and fundamental fractal geometry that Dutch Sense has been pointing out to us over and over again throughout this. And here's a bigger wall. We dubbed it the Great Wall of Tartaria because it's through the actual areas of the maps, Siberia, that used to be called Tartaria, and that there's literally no history for these. And you have the foundation of America, the
there's
said her name earlier in New York. The
Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty was built off the base of one of these, and then there's like a wall thousands of kilometers long of buried ones of these with no history across the current flashpoint of Crimea off the Dnieper River and through Siberia, aka Tartaria.
And thank you to everyone who has donated today. Thank you.
I recently found one up north, actually, that we should go over later. After the break, of course.
Alrighty.
I just posted into the chat room for anybody who wants to see it. World War II drones and B-17 bomber remote control airplanes that I found, that they flew through the nuclear tests out at the Bikini Atoll, and that they had full-on drone B-17 bombers in World War II with no people on them. And I just posted the article. You can go see it. They got pictures of it all flying around and everything. They had fully remote controlled drone B-17 bombers in World War II.
We've got a bot in one of the chats. I don't know whose it is. Can mods get rid of that, please? Some sex Tinder chat thing.
We're getting attacked by the freaking porn bots.
I think it's yours, it's not my channel.
Sexy time, guys. Paul was here. Paul was here, and look what happens, man. I'm telling you, the guy brings it out. I think everybody sweats.
My crypto alchemist. Did they attack it all at once? Interesting. That's why I literally make everybody in my live chats moderators, because the porn bots were so bad for a while that they're relentless. So you make everybody mod, they can't get out there, and it's ridiculous because once you start making a bunch of people moderators, then they will delete anybody else that they have a disagreeing volume.
Indeed. All right, press play. I'll be back.
And if we come back,
I'll be right back too. I guess I'm going to have a quick break as well.
Me as well.
We'll get into his wall as well.
Yeah, so this is what we dubbed the Great Wall of Tartaria, and that we'll be getting Olaf, the Sverker channel, Olaf, to come on with us to do a full presentation of where it begins in the Black Sea, across all of the Ukraine, and then across all of Siberia into the Russian Arctic Ocean. And this is just for the middle of Ukraine.
And you'll see, I mean, this one, you know, is very, very hard to sort of point out, but there are, you can see sort of a bit of a star point there and down here. And that's been marked because Olaf, he's got a YouTube channel, Olaf the Sverker. He was getting the old maps of this area and overlaying them on Google Earth. And then, the old maps would show where these stars were. And then he would overlay the map, and he'd find in a lot of circumstances these old stars. Because, I mean, otherwise, imagine just randomly trying to search for this stuff. Because look, here's another one, right? Look at that imprint in the ground. I'll just wait for it to buffer a bit, but you can still see this star. And it looks like there was a bit here they couldn't get rid of. It's still sticking out the ground. But again, they've just put a farm over the top of it. And there's all these other, interesting, circles and bits and pieces in the ground as well. And of course, always, next to waterways and things.
Everybody can hear this.
Some of them do have like fortress names and histories, but as we go through and we've discovered, and Olaf has discovered, especially as it gets into Russia, on the other side of Ukraine, that there's not even official histories for lots of these forts along this wall.
You can see this one was obviously the foundations were a bit too big and a bit too high, so they've just gone around it. But we can see a bit more in this one. We can see this point below it, which is called a cavalier. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure it's a cavalier. And if they're attached to the fort, they're called bastions. This is all obviously talk about when they're war. But another thing, a lot of these forts, the army and the armed forces, they call them batteries, right? But then, of course, all the troops come out and charge. So, we think there's a lot hidden in the language as well, as far as what the function of these things were. But if we come down here, we'll start to see this wall that just appears out of the landscape. And the same features. We get these, we'll call them bastions, these, pointy spear tips.
Also petals.
The same kind of stuff that we see here. Petal, yeah. Petals is probably better. That's what Olaf is calling them. Petals is much nicer, right? Much
and
less
they're the
violent.
exact same shape and wall as, for instance, the map that we showed of New York City, the Wall Street, that wall. This is the same identical infrastructure petal bastion wall that is Wall Street, yet it's the other side of the world, and no real official history of wall itself was, or when it was built.
Oh, did we just lose Bernie? Okay, so
I've got my camera off just to try to preserve bandwidth.
Oh, you keep cutting out a bit there. Okay, so we're just following this wall. Now, if Google would be nice, you'll see. So here, we get these pointy bits along this wall, and there's another one there. They seem to be pretty equidistant, and like Bernie was saying, these are the exact same features we see in all the star cities, and we saw in that picture of New York. On Wall Street was this exact same kind of wall, and we don't even know, why they have these, bastions, these pointy bits, but they're everywhere. They're equidistant along all these old structures. And this wall, and you can see how old it is. There's literally just remnants of it left. You can still see it. There's another pointy bit, and there's a big one, which probably means there's a star close by. And it just keeps going, always close to water. And then up here, see, it starts again. There's another pointy bit. So again, like Bernie was saying, there's no narrative at all as to who built this. And this thing is a massive, massive construction. Still going down here, you can see another pointy bit. Down here. Oh, and look, there we have another star fort. A star just sitting in the middle of nowhere, right? And again, they've had to go around this one rather than covering it up because the base is obviously too big. So you can see that there's a connection between these walls, these stars, and as I've been mentioning, they're always close to water. Now, You can kind of see the remnants of the water here. This place as well has been bombed. It's been carpet bombed. You can see, like, if we go down to places like, it's probably not the best one, but in some areas, it's literally just pitted with holes. But you can see all the markers for this wall. It just keeps going and going. And here's another star, right?
Just
But no narrative as to who built these stars. So it's and like we've been saying, this is the same stuff that you can find in, you know, the Americas, in Africa, in Europe. You know, it's the same stuff. That's why we keep saying it's built by the same civilization, right? Like, there's a bit of the wall there, you can see. It's just, and you know, we sort of spent, you know, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours doing this, but with more time, we're pretty sure that this would map right across, because when I pull out, the same stuff is up here. So no doubt this system goes, I mean, and no doubt it just spreads out and goes everywhere, I would think. But up here, you know, we see these same canals and these same, you know, StarForts and things up in, what's this? Is this the Baltic Sea?
Yeah, this is just off of the Baltic.
Be the Sea of Tartaria, didn't it?
Right behind.
Oh, that's the Baltic there, yeah.
Yeah, is that either St. Petersburg? Yeah, behind St. Petersburg. But so this canal system through St. Petersburg actually goes through the rivers, connects to Moscow.
Sorry, I paused it there. I'm seeing your comments and requests. I will be posting all the links for Gerald's channel for this video and everybody else's. I'm just going to finally run to the washroom quickly as we wait for everyone else to get back. There's about 5 minutes left in this current video, and then we will take it to the next topic. Love you all, and enjoy the rest of this clip.
Then goes south all the way down to where we were going through the Black Sea and Azov Sea and the Dnieper system there. And right there, that's a prime example of
an old star.
Exactly, that entire coast. And it's,
yeah. And this is an interesting one. I think this is probably partly because of you know, water levels rising. It's this canal. It's right on the coast.
And surely some of the canals are newer developments and newer infrastructure, but it's that when there just has to be comparative research of bringing up all of the old maps, sourcing them, and you'll be shocked at how many times there's actually even more canals in the ancient older maps than even do exist today, and you end up finding dried up ones and everything. It's just mind-boggling each time we go in.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, you know, some of this is new, and some of, you know, they've done, you know, some retro work and that, but the old system itself is, you know, is definitely old world, because, you know, it's not complete. You know, it sort of goes along, then you find some covered up bits, and then it just sort of pops out somewhere else. But they obviously, you know, are tying into it, you know, where they can use it. But I mean, so yeah, this is, look, if you look at this area, if Google let us, I mean, you can sort of see, it just looks like it's been decimated by something. Like the landscapes you see out here, they're just very strange. Not that Google's been very helpful. And there's these just like pitted with holes and stuff. Like down here, you see all these just sort of random kind of holes, and they're just sort of everywhere. So it looks like this whole place was literally bombed out. You know, look, I mean, look at this landscape. All these,
right, and it's
very strange.
Like Alaska and the Yukon as well, and then all of the Siberian coast. And they claim that it's from this glacial ice scarring. But when you go into some of these ancient maps that we'll go through at the end here of Tartaria in the northeastern Siberia, any former civilization, yet you'll see these castles and these cities all marked on these rivers and stuff. And then when you go through on Google Earth, it just looks like these massively blown out, bombed out former ruins and war zones.
It really does, and Google's not. Oh, hang on, let's have a look. But this kind of stuff, just these kind of random, holes everywhere. It's just all over this region, but also these lines in the ground. I mean, that could be a road, but look at this. This looks like a big foundation of some kind of big building. And even when we come in on these cities, we get this look where they all kind of splay out from a centerpiece. And that's another thing, is all the cities, they seem to be laid out in the same way. There you go. So make sure you subscribe, share this around, guys. Stay awesome, and we'll talk to you all next upload. Bye for now. Every city, clean.
Estonia, and that it's this canal system, literally from where we are right here in the Black Sea, the Azov Sea, at the edge of Ukraine, travels the entire European continent, I guess, connecting the Baltic to the Black Sea. And who built it and when? It just boggles the mind.
It's ridiculous. This one, as you can see, like all dead straight, but it just goes on forever. And they enter, oh, come on, Google, they enter lakes often, and different sort of water features, and then they just pop out the other side and keep going. Oh, come on, Google, it's not being nice, but you can see it coming all the way down here, and it just keeps going. And this, when you look at it, this is a massive infrastructure. It's huge, the amount of territory it covers, and they're just going, winding through all this farmland, nothing around them. And as you can see here, they have these lakes, and they'll come in one side down here, and then they just pop out the other side. So this was a fully integrated system, of water, and we don't know, but we think that the water was something to do with, the power, the electricity or something, or at least, the frequency. Obviously water is current, right?
But
just like electricity, but
the
you see them
infrastructure of
connected
the
up with the
travel and
stars.
trade too, right? That they had these full of water highways across the entire world that they had built at a time that they shouldn't have been able to even measure the ground to be stable to do this. It's crazy.
It is. Now look at this. So this is, can you see the imprint here of this star in the ground? And clearly
we have the imprint of another star.
Just so everybody knows, when I'm typing in chat, it's putting what I'm saying,
so
Dutch sense,
just been leveled,
and it's being said by
on the top of it,
everybody, including BurnEye and
Zertis
Zertis and a bunch of other people. I don't know why it's doing that, but just so you know, they're not.
And there's more along this
they're
line.
not
So
typing what I'm typing.
How old that is. It's
like we're not all typing the same thing at once. Just letting everybody know that. I don't know why.
There's a wall that connects all these, that goes along next to this man-made canal system. So, we're finding all this stuff, and it's all connected. Here's another one, right? Like this imprint of this star, and they've just built a farm over it. But that's clearly a star, what they want us to think is a star fort. Just the foundations of it. And if we come back, you can see there's a line of stars here. But we'll get into this wall as well.
Yeah, so this is what we dubbed the Great Wall of Tartaria. And that we'll be getting Olaf, the Sverker channel, Olaf, to come on with us to do a full presentation of where it begins in the Black Sea, across all of the Ukraine, and then across all of Siberia into the Russian Arctic Ocean. And this is just a segment of it off of the Dnieper River in the middle of Ukraine.
And you'll see, this one, you know, is very, very hard to sort of point out. But there are, you can see sort of a bit of a star point there and down here. And that's been marked because Olaf, he's got a YouTube channel, Olaf the Sverker. He was getting the old maps of this area and overlaying them on Google Earth. And then, you know, the old maps would show where these stars were. And then he would, you know, overlay the map, and he'd find in a lot of circumstances these old stars. Because I mean, you know, otherwise imagine just randomly trying to search for this stuff. Because look, here's another one, right? Look at that imprint in the ground. I'll just wait for it to buffer a bit, but you can still see this star. And it looks like there was a bit here they couldn't get rid of. It's still sticking out the ground. But again, they've just put a farm over the top of it. You know, and there's all these other, you know, interesting, you know, circles and bits and pieces in the ground as well. And of course, always, you know, next to waterways and things.
And some of them do have like fortress names and histories, but as we go through and we've just, Olaf has discovered, especially as it gets into Russia on the other side of Ukraine, that there's not even official histories for lots of these forts along this wall.
They're a bit too high, so they've just gone around it. But you can see, we can see a bit more on this one. We can see this point below it, which is called a cavalier. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure it's a cavalier. And if they're attached to the fort, they're called bastions. You know, this is all obviously talk about when they're war. But another thing, you know, a lot of these forts, you know, the army and the armed forces, they call them batteries, right? Batteries. And then, of course, all the troops come out and charge. So, you know, we think there's a lot hidden in the language as well, as far as what the function of these things were. But if we come down here, we'll start to see this wall that just appears out of the landscape, and the same features. We get these, you know, we'll call them bastions, these, you know, pointy spear tips.
Also petals.
The same kind of stuff that we see here. Petal, yeah. Petals is probably better. That's what Olaf is calling them. You know, petals is much nicer, right? Much
and
less
they're the
violent.
exact same shape and wall as, for instance, the map that we showed of New York City, the Wall Street, that wall. This is the same identical infrastructure petal bastion wall that is Wall Street, yet it's the other side of the world, and no real official history of what the wall itself was or when it was built.
Oh, did we just lose Bernie? Okay, so
I've got my camera off just to try to preserve
bandwidth.
We
just regained Bernie, and Bernie's been posting the links in the live chat for everybody. We got Campbell back, we got Dutch Sense and Jill. We're all here. All right. What did you guys think of that one? Catch a little bit of that?
I could go on for 2 hours on everything that you guys said there. I mean, the giant wall, the wall with the StarForts along it, reminds me of the 1,400-mile long islands out in the Pacific, that they're spaced just like that along a giant, what I would think would be wall, but ancient, absolutely ancient.
Well, yeah, we'll have to measure the distance between those bastions, and because it's probably all based on like an ancient cubit length or something, just different ratios.
Right. Like the 1,400-mile thing is really weird.
I bet it'll be divisible. It'll be divisible and like scale perfectly ratio with that 1,400-mile and 666 mile or kilometer one that you're getting. Guaranteed it will scale into it. Oh, you're muted again.
And of course, 666 is 18. You know, 180. Oh, it was 1,400, wasn't it? 180 was the tune, wasn't it? That's right, the frequency.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with the 666 on the Antarctica, but that fits with the astronaut guy who said it was the most evil place that he had ever seen or something. It's like, okay, all right. It's getting a little weird, you know. But, you know, you were talking about the StarFort things, and I wanted to show you something that you might not know about that's in New York City.
Yes,
and
please.
most people just kind of gloss it over and ignore. Here we are in the Bronx. Okay, and I'll zoom it out so we can see where we are in the Bronx. Yeah, you know, as you would imagine, big projects, you know, huge brick structures. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn you around, and we're going to look at what the projects are built on top of.
Okay.
Now, okay,
Yeah.
so the projects are built on top of what's called Fort Tryon. And we're told that this is the old English fort that used to exist that was here, but it's not. It's huge. It goes on for 10 miles. And
those apartment complexes are built on the foundation walls of that star fort. Like, look at that.
Yeah,
right
you can see
have you seen the pictures of the Bronx in like the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, the
how
crumbling
destroyed
Bronx.
it is.
They got destroyed, completely destroyed.
Oh, look, they blurred it out.
They literally blur out the parts, and then the parts that are closer are most likely a new facade. And the dual word meaning of facade, it's hilarious how when it was the new found land, reclaimed land, and they refacaded all of the architecture, these old world castles and stuff.
Look at this. Your mind's going to be, look at this. This is what the new buildings are built on top of. This, which goes, this is, again, I can't believe it. Now, you're not going to believe it, but there's old brick buildings that are on top of the Star Fort that are built, new brick buildings on top of the old brick buildings that were there. Yeah. Apparently, even before there's brick, there's the Fort Tryon or whatever it's called, and that's a load of crap. It's not Fort Tryon. Now, I'm going through here, and as I'm going through, I found hidden structures that New York has deliberately hidden. And they've allowed ivy and other things to grow over what were there, which are giant megalithic stones of massive proportion. Now, I'm going to back it out and show you where we are in New York, in case you're familiar with New York. Let's bring this back due north. There's Fort Tryon.
Fort Tryon, yeah.
Okay, now we're going to go along the highway right here, and we'll show you what's really there. This is mind-blowing. They've allowed ivy to grow up on the old walls that are here, and they are old walls that are here, and some of them, it started to collapse. They had to come in and clear out all the ivy to fix the wall from it collapsing and everything sliding out from underneath. And this is what's there. Now, up on top of here are a bunch of old brick. See these brick buildings here?
Oh, wow.
All of these, they have castle tops on them. Every one of these.
Sorry, I got to stop you for 1 sec, Dutch. The castle parts, and that you see it's like that cobblestone wall of amalgamation, and that is castle. So that's still old world, but that's like the newest old world, the crappier facade
it's smaller, it's not megalithic.
World. And that's guaranteed below that is then the geopolymer layers of the base foundation of these structures on the macro scale from probably the Atlantean, Lemurian, or giant ages, or in modern science we call it the Younger Dryas event, or the time before the last ice age, aka 12,000 years ago, aka, as Graham Hancock points out in all the work of Randall Carlson with him, of how the oceans actually rose 400 feet in only a matter of a couple of years at that period in time, and there was a massive catastrophe, and that what we dub mud flood in this research community is that there's all of these cathedrals and leftover mega structure buildings that are found, and that nowadays when they're renovated, they dig up and dig below the foundations, and that there's buried layers of even larger entrances, of windows that are covered by like tens of feet, like a couple of stories lots of the time, and that these aren't the bottom layers with these windows and bigger doors that have been covered for mud the entire time aren't even included in the original blueprints and schematics and architectural drawings of these refound, reclaimed, robber baron facaded buildings and architecture.
Yeah, they didn't build any foundations, man. It was just all old buildings.
This was already here. They built this house on top of it, an Art Deco house on top of this old, what looks like an old bridge footing. Now, when you look at that old bridge, that's massive. But here's the current new bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge. So there was an old bridge that extended off of this above the bay and harbor that went all the way across. And they tell us that's an Art Deco house. Now, this is the mind blower that nobody's going to believe. See these big, massive structures up here, these big apartment complexes? They're housing projects for the Brooklyn, for Brooklyn. These are called the Castle Point housing projects. And they're built with the bricks of the old castle that was here.
Right, the word spell again, the root words. Nico pointing out foundation.
Look how many there are.
Foundation.
Okay, so there was an old castle that they said was built in the 1920s by a baron of some kind, some guy's name, and they said that he tore down his castle and built all these housing projects for the poor people because he was concerned about the poor. And so these structures here with these castle tops are built from the bricks of the old brick castle that was up here that they said that they tore down to build those places.
Right, and that's just like Egypt, where they claim or they documented that they took all the stones from several pyramids down and deconstructed it and destroyed, removing several even larger pyramids. Now we've found, shout out Ancient Historia channel, Luke. Michael, you met him last time, our first stream. He was with us, the young gay fellow. But
well, I mean, Paul Cook's finding this as well with where they're reusing, and he's also finding where they're cutting up the bigger blocks into smaller ones, and that's what they're building, the newer stuff with. So it's all just, that's that saying, right? We're standing on the shoulders of giants, but literally, we're building on their foundations.
Or parts of them, anyway.
Right, and so Luke found on the Nile, this Nazra, where the waterfalls of the Nile used to be. Now there's a giant dam and lake there. And that, in fact, in all the old maps from the 1600s and all the ancient Greek testimonies of the area and their maps, right at this waterfall below it, that there was even larger pyramids than the Giza pyramids, and they were at the steeper angle like the Nubian pyramids further up at the beginning of the Nile there in Ethiopia, Sudan, but that the tallest one was 1,400 feet tall.
As tall as
that's a mountain. That's a 1,000 foot's a mountain. So
as tall as the Empire State Building it was.
Yeah, the Empire State Building.
Sphinxes.
And then we went and checked it. We pulled up Google Earth and we checked the spot right where below where the waterfall would have been, and then now it's covered by a lake. But where that 1,400-foot pyramid was, there was a giant stone quarry. It was one of the main quarries now, right where all the ancient maps and pictures depicted this 1,400-foot pyramid is now. And speak of the devil, welcome, Luke.
They changed they changed the course of the Nile. And so what you were saying before, Gerald, about water needing to be on, to rise up to set them off. If they change the course of the Nile, then they take the water, the current, right, away from it and turn it all off.
They would shut down the negative aspect of how that electrical circuit runs. My question was that Nubian pyramid, 1,400 foot high, not a question, more of a statement. That's built at 76.345 degrees angle. That would make it an antenna, almost like cell phone towers today. In fact, I kind of wonder if cell phone towers are built at that same angle.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's important.
And there's also all that research that the Russians did on the pyramids with the different angles at the top, and they were like,
I have some research on that, different angles of pyramids and the degrees and what they do and what parts of the body it heals, and very interesting stuff. Pyramids are amazing. Shape power, I guess you'd call it. there's a little more to it than that. Don't get me wrong. That's more of a subtle energy, but yeah, very interesting.
The numbers, patterns, right? Like the golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, and Mike pointed out there that it's 1400 again. That 1400 feet, just like the 1400 miles
1400
between
feet,
all
yeah,
the
right.
islands.
Well, an antenna is what, 1725 feet? So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is that not what it is?
I got to show this part in correlation. This is the Grand Canyon topographical map.
And yeah. I just didn't want to interrupt you. Sorry, bro.
Oh, okay. Hello, Luke.
Welcome, Luke. Ancient Story. So yeah, this is two topographical maps of the main pyramid complex section of the Grand Canyon, where King Cade's discovery was reported, and where this Isis temple is. This is the closest one of the 50 pyramid marked temples that anybody can see or walk up to access. Not a lot of people know that this entire area of the Grand Canyon is not just a no-fly zone 24/7, 12 months of the year, that they actually have active denial systems for drones there. Shout out to our good friend Rex Bear at Leak Project. He's gone there a couple times, and he has it on camera where he had his drone going over trying to explore it, and then all of a sudden just boom, they crashed it. They freaking fried it.
Well,
and then
I was just
after the on video that he has it filmed, and it's on his channel, of the Apache helicopter coming up from out of the canyon, and like they were chased out by an Apache helicopter, and they were just on the edge of the Grand Canyon, of the main site that you can look out to here and see.
What if it's a no-fly zone because it's still producing electricity, and it's stuff? It was the actual area that sank the drone because it stuffed with the electrics.
That's possible, and
why
that
is
would
there a
explain why
military
the compasses always start spinning in certain areas around these places.
There you go.
Possibly.
It's in operation then, because I'll tell you this: all the research I've done in the coils I build, they make my compasses spin, or I can direct at what pole goes where. If I want the south pole on the bottom, I can do that, or I can make it continuously spin. So that's when it's operating in like a vortex, and that's exactly what a pyramid does. It's torsion mechanics. It builds a torsion field above at the top of the pyramid itself. So if it is still operating, and you're absolutely right, a drone in the wrong spot caught that wave, be gone.
Well, the drone actually crashing, Rex believes, and there's more cases of this, that it's actually the Park Rangers National Guard and was probably a active denial drone unit on the Apache helicopter that he filmed a few minutes later that crashed it, and that like they straight hijacked it and then like intentionally destroyed it, like where they accelerated it into the cliff sort of thing as soon as they got it. This is one of the geoglyphs, or I think this is a geoglyph, or earthenwork, whatever you want to call it, of Nazca, Peru, the same area, Dutch, that you were showing the Nazca. It was Nazca Peru skulls, right?
Yeah.
And so this is from the hill mountain there, which is now desert, down to the ocean. So this is a couple hundred feet, I believe. And it's been there, they say it's thousands of years, just as old as the rest of the Nazca lines. This is clearly a fractal ray antenna of sorts.
I was just about to say. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Straight fractal ray antenna, and it has very similar geometries to the under ocean structures that you were showing at.
Looks like a trident.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to apologize to everyone, by the way. I'm going to sound really nasally because I've just come out of surgery like 2 hours ago.
Out of surgery?
Yeah. Just it's like I should still be at hospital actually, but
that's why Luke's not showing his face. Fair enough.
It's all done up.
Well,
Yeah, but
it wasn't anything to do with the other stream the other night, was it?
no. I didn't overdo it. No, I had a nose surgery planned for today and had
It
it
was
done.
a cosmetic
Did it
plan
rhino
surgery.
place?
It's not cosmetic. It's quite functional.
Come
Oh,
on,
fun.
you're trying to look like David Beckham, aren't you?
Oh, I'm going to come on tomorrow with a completely different nose. But yeah, no, it's quite awful because at least in England, right? You know, they kind of let you go. They're like, sign this form and you can leave, and you could have an axe in your head, and they'd be like, sign the form. It's not our problem. So as long as you sign the form, you're all right. So this rule was like, you know, you got to stay until like 5, and I was like, 5? Give me the form. Sign the form. Pulled the cannula out my arm. They're like, you can't do that. It's like, yes, I can. I've signed the form.
I've signed the form. You're no longer liable.
Walking out, like, covering my own blood, like, see you later, bitches. But yeah, it was.
So
it was
if you
I might
didn't
have to go,
join-
guys. It's almost midnight here, and hitting 3 hours.
Fair enough. Good, Campbell.
So
I did
you
want
guys
to just
can
finish
feel free to
covering.
keep going if you want to keep going.
Okay.
Could
you
I
wanted to-
address one thing that everybody, before anybody goes, because there's going to be a lot of people when I play this back on my channel or whatever, and they will address it and bring up the famous excuse that everyone brings up when we're seeing a lot of this stuff, which is they try to say it's pareidolia, which is people try to say that we're seeing shapes and things and that we're not really seeing anything and that blah 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 doesn't mean anything. But I would bring back up what we started talking about at the start of this whole thing, which is the military bases in the middle of each one.
Sorry,
and
before you continue on with that and addressing exactly what you're talking about, these topographical maps of the pyramids there. So topographical map means the lowest part is this river, the base, and then the highest point is the peaks. And each of the peaks are these exact pyramids and temples that are literally called Isis temple, Hindu temple, Ra temple, and so forth. But that they perfectly align up the peaks of each of those pyramid temples in the Grand Canyon, perfectly align up to each star in the Orion constellation in the sky, as well as the other major stars in the Perseidid sky of the Orion constellation, so that there's not just it, but even more, and that it's perfect proportion, star for star, or star for peak, over 30 stars and peaks of these pyramid temple structures there, so that if you're trying to claim pareidolia or some coincidence, it's
Come back, Bernie.
Absolutely.
The connection lords have spoken. Dutch,
losing
carry on.
losing your bit of your finale there, Bernie. But this is proving that it's not pareidolia, right? That is an exact representation of what we see in the sky. So, you know, not seeing things. All right, go Dutch. Bernie seems to have done a bolt.
There's a graphic that the BurnEye has on the screen, the showing the overlay of the constellation, and people, you know, again, they try to say that we're seeing things, but it can't be that it is that it can't be that it's just us seeing something. And I'm going to prove that pareidolia is used by the most elite, occult, high-end people in our current society, and that they use pareidolia. I'm going to show it to you right now and prove it to you. Here's North America. We zoom in on North America. Here's the Colorado Rocky Mountains. And the Colorado Rocky Mountains, if you zoom in on them. Do you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the shape. If you look at it, I'm going to tell you what shape to see. It's a bucking horse shape. Okay. Where it's got two hooves on the front and the bucking horse. Yeah. And it's got this weird mane on the back that's spiked. Now I'm going to zoom in on what would be the eye. And you've got Estes Lake up at the highest point of Colorado of the eye of the horse. Now, to prove that this is not me seeing something, that this is actually a shape that's there. The eye of the horse is looking down upon the famous swastika-shaped Denver airport. And at the Denver airport, when you're driving out of the Denver airport, there is the very famous, and let me see if I can find it on here, the Denver airport horse. And let me bring it in at ground level here.
Mate, we can't see what you put because Bernie's.
Bernie, what have you hit? Oh, there. Okay.
Okay. And at the Denver airport is the famous Denver airport horse. Denver airport horse. There it is. The blue Mustang. They call him Blucifer. Now, the reason they call him Blucifer isn't because it's a bucking bronco for like the Denver Broncos. He's the same color as the mountains appear at a distance, and he's got a very specific shape to him. He's got the spiked mane and glowing red eyes, and now we can go in and see it at a ground level. They've gone up, and you can see at picture level if we do this. Blucifer is a giant blue horse, the color of the mountains at a distance, and he's got the glowing red eyes, but the back of his head is the mane that I just showed you.
Intentionally made Blucifer.
Yes, the intentionally made Blucifer here at the swastika-shaped airport. The horse in the mountains itself.
Like,
now there's a guy riding on the horse.
Effed up, like, because there's the huge underground part of that place, and that they intentionally made it a demonic Blucifer.
Yeah, that's the one
like
that had
3 horsemen coming in with the apocalypse.
Oh yeah, the 3 horsemen.
Right.
Yeah, because it had the big mural in there. Yeah.
Okay. Now the apocalypse ties in with this because the guy riding on the back of the green or blue horse, depending on which one you want to go with, it looks it's pareidolia now. We're straight up pareidolia on purpose. That this is the bucking horse. The bucking horse is looking at the bucking horse, and on his back is riding a guy in a cloak that looks like he's got a beard up here. And this is Yellowstone up here. The head of the horseman of the apocalypse that's riding on. It looks like he's got a cloak. And he's over. This is his head. This is his nose and his eyes.
You heard it here, folks. Yellowstone is going to erupt.
Well, no. I didn't say that. But this is pareidolia. This is pareidolia.
First.
And to prove that they're using pareidolia now, I'm going to show you one more example of it. There's a movie called Zardoz with Sean Connery. It's a very, very strange movie where Sean Connery is wearing this.
What? Oh
and Sean Connery, the movie starts out and it says the gun is good and the male appendage is bad, but they don't say the male appendage. They say the P word. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get your stream banned. But Sean Connery plays a mutant in the future. And in the future, there's this giant head that lands and they pour grain into the mouth of the head. And then the head takes off and flies through an invisible barrier to an Illuminati base made of mirror pyramids. And there's people that are living forever in this Illuminati base, but they require food, and they ship them humans and food as slaves and as food. This is in the movie. Now, the head of Zardoz. Why is it called Zardoz? In the movie, Sean Connery plays a enforcer for these people, and he's he finds a book out in a burned library. And the cover's been burned off, and most of the book has been burned away, but he still picks it up, and he teaches himself to read using this book. It's The Wizard of Oz. But it says Zardoz because part of the cover's burned off, and he teaches himself to read via The Wizard of Oz. Now, why does that matter? The head of Zardoz is in the shape of the North American plate itself. Now, to see it, first let me show you the head. And they always show it at the same angle in the movie. It's this way. Now, I'm going to prove this to you because the movie's about the Wizard of Oz. Why does that matter? The head of Zardoz is in the North American plate where the 2 eyes of Zardoz are here and the mouth is right here. Now, to see it, you have to look a world away. And I'm going to prove it to you that they meant this because when I zoom in on the mouth of Zardoz where they toss the grain into the mouth of Zardoz, first of all, let me ask you, do you see the outline of the head of Zardoz here with the 2 eyes and the mouth? compared
What?
to
Oh yeah! Wow!
the picture of
a
Zardoz.
longer, like
It's like he's got the
Oh,
beard,
the
he's got the
nose.
but now let me prove this to you that this is real. When we zoom in on the mouth of Zardoz, where you toss in the grain in the movie, there's in Kansas is known for its grain, but when I zoom in on the spot where the mouth is, there's this place, and it's called.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Well, it's ironic you say that because this is called Liberal, Kansas, where the Dorothy Museum is, where the house for Dorothy is. There it is, Dorothy's house. Dorothy's house is there where it goes over the rainbow. So now in the movie, Sean Connery goes over the rainbow, and they built this weird airbase here too.
And then we've
Sean
got the
Connery
rainbow
goes over the
bridge.
rainbow to go to Zardoz, and here is Zardoz in the middle of the mouth of Zardoz, but Zardoz is set into the North American plate in a pareidolia-like shape. It can't be changed. Having Liberal, Kansas, and Dorothy's house, I didn't know that was going to be there. I saw this first. I saw this. I was just goofing around. I was super high, sitting there looking at the freaking screen, probably like somebody in the 1970s was doing it. I was high. I was looking at the screen, and I said, hey, that looks like the head of Zardoz. That's weird. I wonder what's at the mouth. And I zoomed in on the mouth, and I sees the Liberal, Kansas, and I knew that the Dorothy Museum was in Liberal, Kansas because I've driven through Kansas before. So I'm like, holy you got to be kidding me.
You know, so I just said
and then here
dots in the comments section. I just have to point out that Dorothy is Dot. You know, Dot is short for Dorothy. So quite literally connecting dots right now.
Guys, it gets weirder. It gets more weird. This gets more weird. The story doesn't end yet. So Dorothy, the pavement of gold, the yellow brick road, right? Guess what is here next to the Dorothy Museum? They're built part of the same structure. The Coronado Museum, a tribute to Coronado. Coronado was the Spaniards searching for the lost city of gold and the Fountain of Youth. Now, get this. At the Coronado Museum, they have a statue of Coronado. And he's dressed as a Spaniard wearing the full costume that Sean Connery wears in Highlander. Now, Sean Connery, after Sean Connery was in Zardoz, a few years later, Sean Connery played Coronado's chief metallurgist. He hops over. Highlander and his wife are making out at a wall, like in the Middle Ages or something. And here comes Sean Connery over the wall on a horse, and he's like, hello, I am Sean Connery. I am the chief Spaniard. Now they're in Scotland. Why isn't Sean Connery playing a Scottish Highlander?
To be fair, Sean Connery always plays a Scottish person, even when he's on a Russian submarine.
Right.
Russian
So
captain of the Red October.
He's the chief metallurgist for Coronado.
In the
and
movie,
he announces this in the movie. So now they have the Coronado Museum right next to the Dorothy Museum. And then you've got Sean Connery playing Zardoz, who goes over the rainbow to go to the Illuminati base, where there's a secret underground Illuminati base where they're living forever. And here at this base, they just so happen to have every fighter jet known to man in a museum stored ready to fly.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Would it
in the
suck
middle of
if
the
you were
mouth
the
of
guy that
Zardoz?
gets stuck with one of the shit planes?
How
You made it
many-
stop the F-35.
This is
How
true
many,
pareidolia, though. This is like
earthquakes have you noticed from that spot? Is that how you first became aware of it, or was it you said you drove through there?
I knew about the Dorothy house because I had driven through there going out to Colorado. My wife and I make a southern turn and went down to Pueblo and then went up through the south, and we stopped at the museum, but I didn't know about the head of Zardoz until I watched Zardoz. And then I didn't put any of it together until I'm sitting there one day looking at, well, believe it or not, I was looking at radar on my local weather map here, which shows it much better, even believe it or not, than Google Earth, because it's a little bit more low resolution. And I'll just say it, I was a little high when I was looking at the map, but it was true pareidolia that I saw it on here better, that I saw the head of Zardoz here with the two eyes and the mouth. And I zoomed in and I said, oh, wow, there's the mouth of Zardoz right there where Sean Connery jumped in. And then I zoomed in and I saw that the direct center of the mouth was Liberal, Kansas. And then I said, oh, shit, that's where Dorothy's house is. And then that means somebody in the 1970s was sitting there tripping on acid or something. And they were looking at the view and they saw this head here and they wrote a movie about it. Or there's some real
it's
real
more
base
known.
there. There's like a real underground base there.
That's why I'm asking about the earthquakes. Like, I guess if they were expanding it or construction, you'd see a whole bunch of little ones. Like, only if they were building now.
Oh, there are.
Once it's built, right?
Brother,
like,
there are. That's
why I
all.
bring that up.
That's where the thousands of Oklahoma fracking earthquakes go right up to there and stop right there every day. For the last 12 years, I've been keeping watch. We start at the Panhandle, right?
Stop right there. They stop right there.
Or they start right there, actually, is a way to put it. Is that starting right there? We go, so that maybe that would be the entrance to the base there. And it would go down below all of Oklahoma.
That there's not the consistent land and the waves are like, it's a different medium there. So it most likely is an air gap instead of a solid or liquid for those waves to continue through, especially them being seismic waves. Isn't that pretty much like direct evidence that there is a giant cavern in that spot that the waves stop or start there, the earthquakes?
It could be. It would make a lot of sense if there was open areas for it to travel through or around. And the big one that I found that I showed you at the start of the update, it points right into his mouth. So like this thing really points down into the mouth of Zardoz, the one that I showed you that goes all the way through the mouth of Zardoz down to our weird underwater base that's down here that looks like the lines in Nazca, Peru. But this is 5,000 feet under the ocean. So this right here is 5,000 feet down in the ocean, but it connects back into this one that goes back up through the mouth of Zardoz right to our arrow. And Dorothy's house is right in the middle of it, which is really odd. Somebody's got to know.
Well, I mean, that could be an antenna going literally underneath, the USA, right?
It could be.
Yeah. Or tunnel.
So these guys, which I'm going to explore on boots on the ground in May here as the snow melts in Canada, but the famous indigenous Western Plains warrior, as well as in the same Badlands Valleys hill area, there's this guy, the Aztec Mayan feather serpent helmets warrior, and that I also believe to the top of the warrior's head here on the top eastern right is another Olmec's face, as well as what looks like a Viking head on the very top of the warrior's forehead and crown of his head here. But that the Ferrum Foundation has gotten extra evidence of the purpose of all of these massive earthenworks and the evidence that it's not just pareidolia. You see these numbers here, these different sites around the valley in Medicine Hat, Alberta, and that they are in fact what he's deciphered as geoglyphs, or these radial earthenwork geoglyphs. You can see these lines, these straight lines going the same direction as these arrows that he's marked out. And that, in fact, that these are earthen works of megalithic stone or earthen soil that is raised above the ground, and that mark specific lengths and angles that then plot out as these different radials from these sites, that when you take the exact angle and its length and put it on, that it gives you times his mathematic equation that I need to find the time to actually read the chapter to get what it is so I can confirm all of this. But point being, it plots out to specific geographic locations across the world and all the other ancient sites. And that pretty much also confirms that all of these massive, seen from above, terraforming structures were for mapping and keeping track of territories.
Now, can I throw out some food for thought on that? I hear whispers. Now, take this with a grain of salt, of course, maybe even a whole bag of salt. But I hear whispers that there's tunnels that are underneath those geoglyphs, and the connections that you made on the topographical maps are actually tunnel connections between point A and point B. So as you go deeper down, the connection itself is actually closer between point A and point B if we're on a sphere. Interesting thought. Love to find out.
Indeed. So apparently with plotting these out, you need both flat maps and the globe. It's pretty interesting that you need both for the system to work. And when it comes to flat versus spherical round, that mathematically neither can be proven wrong. They're both accurate to the point that whether it's heliocentric or, sorry, what's the other term for it? The second one, heliocentric. Anywho, the two different, they both work, and you can never disprove one or the other. Thus, both must exist simultaneously. And for this geoglyphology to work, both also need to be plotted out using a flat and spherical curved mapatures with it. And here you can see the lines. Those are some of those radials, those geoglyphic earthenworks that he uses. So that's going to be one of the main things that we're going to confirm when we go explore this spot in May this summer. And it's going to be a YouTube meetup. So anyone Western Canada, Western US wants to come, or any rich sponsors want to come to Southern Alberta Badlands for the heck of it. Yeah, we're going to do a week here. This, what looks like an ear pod or earbud going up to his ear area, is actually a gravel road and an oil derrick. So that's how large from above this picture is. And that you can see here that it's not, another way you know it's not pareidolia is that this is it from the fall, this is it in like the spring, but this is regular, or maybe, anyways, throughout the different seasons, so that the shadowing and the angles to capture these images, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt, pardon the pun, that to give the actual depth and features of this face and these faces that you're seeing, and that it's impossible. And they claimed the same for the face on Mars, that, oh, pareidolia, and it didn't look like it, when in fact, if you actually do a deep dive into all of the official pictures released, whatever the heck it is up there, that when you give them scrutiny, Richard Hoagland's work, shout out to him, showing that there was from different angles at different times of year, and once again, it would still create the features that show that these are indeed faces and depicting different things, just like Dutch, you found all of the geoglyphs down there in Florida of the iguana, as well as the different buffalo and shapes. Was that in Idaho, or where was that one you found? And you muted, Dutch.
Oh, okay. No, I found the geoglyphs of several of them. The ones up in Idaho, they had turned the area into, it was a war fought over the location. Hog farmers had started bringing their hogs in the early 1800s onto this sacred land for the Native Americans up in Idaho. Anyway, found that an earthquake struck below it. And I zoomed in on it. I said, you got to be kidding me. What is this? People told me first it must be farmers paying tribute to the Native Americans by carving the shapes in. And now, of course, it's a slam dunk. It's a Native American site that was turned into a marshland and flooded every year by the government ever since they took it over and hid it. And, you know, this gets into something where we got to talk about it. I got to show it. I know we're going on, like 3 hours now, but there's something that I think, there's something everybody needs to see, which is, I'll bring it back over here. You're talking about geoglyphs and shapes and plates. And we get into this shape here again, here in the Midwest, which is the giant StarForts shape. And in Missouri, zooming in down here on the, I hate to keep, beating a dead horse on this, but the Geospatial Agency built in the middle of the StarFort here in St. Louis. Now, this StarFort in St. Louis is marked here on the map. This is where the Geospatial Agency is being built right now. This is a map from 1796. Now, the water flows out and it goes down to the river. This is fresh water, obviously, flowing out and going over this is cliffs. I live here in St. Louis. These are cliffs that go up. There's some bluffs, if you will, and they got the waterfall drawn.
Sorry, I gotta also point out that battery right there on the left, on the other side of the above cliff, on the other side there. There you go. The battery StarForts. That's that same battery shape. You're gonna find them everywhere, and that it's the identical battery that the entire wall of StarForts that we showed earlier is made out of. And that how is it over here in St. Louis in the 1600s, and then also a full wall of hundreds of them running thousands of kilometers across all of Eurasia.
I wonder if they're attached through an aquifer of some way, shape, or form.
Well, look what it is. Look what's at the tip of this now. Up here at the tip of this now is the St. Louis water tower. And so let me bring it in and show you. It's a giant old Tartarian Corinthian column made of brick that's huge. Look at it.
Right?
Okay,
like,
this is
it's
the water.
such
This
an
is the water.
anomaly.
Yeah,
And
water
that's-
tower at the tip of this. Oh, whoa, my Google
Point
Earth
for
just
point where that water starts here you're showing is literally where the area of where that water tower currently is. And I think you said there was 3 or 4 of the water towers in that area originally. And that this is the
there's
one
two
remaining.
there's 2 huge ones and then a third one that they've built, and all 3 are at the pinnacle tip of it. My Google Earth just crashed while I was trying to show you. I'll zoom back in on it again. Here we are in St. Louis. They have the Geospatial Agency being built in the center of this one. This was not disclosed to the public. They've hidden this. I had to find this myself and make everyone, including anthropologists here in the St. Louis region, aware of this. They built the X marks the spot housing project in the middle of it, and at the very tip of it is the water tower side by side.
That X right in the middle. And then
That
and
water
side by
tower, the
side.
white one, looks really similar to the one that you find in Chicago, you know, the World's Fair.
Yeah, the one there.
Yeah. And then look at this one.
Yeah, identical, pretty much. And sorry, I got to point out,
this
like,
one's got-
Dutch was showing.
This one has spots to shoot out of.
How is like a water tower supposed to have spots to shoot out of? That makes zero sense whatsoever.
This gets into, again, my Google Earth just crashed again as I was trying to show it to you. That's twice now. Okay, so I'm going to get to this. I have to show it to you. They built something down along the river where this fresh water flows to, and it ties in with what they're doing with the rest of these forts around the world. They built a sewage plant to take all the sewage and trash. So here is the Starfort, and right over here, here's the fresh water coming out, and here's our sewage treatment plant right here.
Do you mind zooming in on the X building? Like the X marks the spot. Is that an old world possible, like Tartarian-esque, or was that a new rebuild of it? And
they built this in the 60s. They came in and built a housing project here, and now they've refurbished the outside of it to make it look nice.
Remarked it, and then now they're repurposing, still using whatever energy thing that is with that geospatial thing there, right there in the center too. And that you showed also that there's all the military forts in all of these spots, and that Facebook data center, and now also this freaking geospatial unit.
And they built a school at the very pinnacle tip of it that's been abandoned, and it's for sale. You guys want to buy it?
Yeah,
we should all pitch our money in, buy this place, and turn it into the School of Geophysics Studies of Tartarian Starforts right next to the Geospatial Agency. It would be a slap in their face.
And free energy, electrical engineering community.
That's where the school is right there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All these are dumps. These are all dumps that they built along here. So trash, recycling, turds, everything. Then, get this. An earthquake struck out on the West Coast last month out here in San Francisco. And it was a rare 5.0 in San Fran directly, and they downgraded it, whatever, but it shook up everybody. And I zoomed in on the earthquake epicenter. Let me show you. Actually, a picture speaks 1,000 words because I just showed you the trash dumps there, and this matters. So an earthquake strikes here, and I zoom in, and I zoom in some more. I'm going to turn off the place mark now just so you can see. This place is where the earthquake struck. And it doesn't look like much at first, but then I zoomed in some more and I said, whoa, wait, there's a satellite array in the middle of there. That must be why the earthquake hit there. Satellites at the center of this little valley. And I thought, what is this? And I turned on the place marks, and it's a trash dump. It's a recycling center. Now, hold on. Look at what
and look at
is.
that cliff. That's like a natural speaker.
Hold on. This is a StarFort. Now, let me get a StarFort picture open. There's our classic StarFort shape, and it's here. And they built houses on one side and a satellite array and a trash dump in the middle. But now that you know to look for it, there it is. Yeah. It's there. It really is there. I measured it. It's perfect. It's the StarFort on all sides, 250 feet going down, and it's 250 feet high. They built a satellite array.
On the beautiful metaphor for shitting on our history.
Yeah, they are. They're literally shitting on the history. And that is in the hills itself. I can bring it in at an angle to show it to you. It really is there. It's an old bastion fort that's been carved out on one side. They put a satellite array and a recycling center in the middle of it, and an earthquake struck below it, which is how I found it. And there it is.
Right, and how many of these sites that you discovered because of the earthquakes? That's the only reason you found so many of them. And that how many in a row do you need for it to be like, okay, this is absolute mathematical facts now. This is a system, a grid. It's undeniable. It's not pareidolia or coincidence. And welcome, Eric Hecker. Oh, did we lose Hecker?
He just. And I have to go. I'm dying very fast.
Yeah,
here.
for much love.
12:30, midnight. Nice to meet you, Dutch. Nice to meet you, Gerald. Thanks, everyone. Have an awesome night, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Well, Brother Campbell. And I believe Eric will be right back. Eric's the my friend, good guy that spent a year working at the South Pole, and that you had a couple questions or things you would like.